2 o'clock on a Friday. It is affectionately known on our show as Happy Hour Friday. Here we go. All right, I'm Mike Gill. Josh Henning producing today's show. You out there. It's a steamer out there today. Beautiful day. I was just actually there, Josh. I've had an interesting day today. Glad to share it with you. As the Sixers, I saw somebody tweet that tonight might be the biggest Sixers game in quite some time. Is it? Is this bigger than the Game 7 against Kawhi and the Raptors? Maybe. You know why? It shows you how OCD I am sometimes with certain things. I just, like if you're watching the video, you would see that I just went to the floor. This fork fell on the ground, and I know it's there, and it's not bothering anybody, but I just can't, in my mind, keep doing this show knowing that that fork is down by my foot. Got the fork. Saved. All right, so let's start this over now. That was driving me insane. Like, I drive my car, and something might fall on the floor in the passenger seat. It's not doing any harm, but I just can't keep driving with that there. So what do? You know, I'm leaning over. I'm trying to pick stuff off the ground. I just can't drive with something knowing it's down there. You know? I don't know. Is that OCD or what? Sixers and Hawks Game 6 tonight. Coverage at 7:30 right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, we got so much. Is this the biggest game? And I'll tell you why this is bigger than, like, Game 7 when they lost that game. When they lost that game against the Raptors, they changed a lot. They got rid of Jimmy Butler. They made the decision to stay with Tobias Harris. They made the decision to go with Al Horford, who, by the way, Al Horford got traded today. Did you see that? Al Horford got traded again today. Somebody took that contract. Unbelievable. The reason the Celtics took that contract is because they got rid of a worse contract. Al Horford traded for Kemba Walker today. So Al Horford's back in Boston. That should be interesting. Joel Embiid against Al Horford 8 times a year or 4 times a year, whatever it is. So when that game, like Game 7 to go to the finals is bigger than Game 6. But here's the difference. This is an elimination game with a team that's the number 1 seed, right? And this is why I feel this game is a little bit bigger than that one. Because that team losing the series, you weren't getting rid of Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons. You didn't really know much about that duo other than they're young. Can they play together? Blah, 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 blah. Here we are in Game 6 of a series that you were heavily favored in. And I think if you lose, the questions will begin. Is it the end of the Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons era in Philadelphia? So that is why tonight has such a big impact. That is why tonight does feel a little bit bigger than the Game 7 against the Raptors. Because if you lose this game tonight, you seriously have to wonder, is this the end of the road for Ben Simmons in Philadelphia? Because I don't think it's the end of the road of Joel Embiid in Philadelphia. But I would have to imagine that the front office is going to have to reevaluate the investment and commitment they made into Ben Simmons. And it's a costly one. Here's the problem. Ben Simmons makes so much money that has he devalued himself to other teams? If you look at it from this aspect, our team's going to line up to sign or trade, for Ben Simmons now, knowing what they saw not only in this playoffs, but previous playoffs where his limitations have stood out. And it's not only him. You look at like Giannis Antetokounmpo, who had a good game last night. However, when push came to shove for Giannis in the biggest moments of that game last night, who was taking the biggest shots? It wasn't Giannis Antetokounmpo. It was Chris Middleton. Giannis took him to the fourth quarter. Middleton shut the door. So our executives around the league saying, can I win with this guy making $29.2 million this year, $31.5 million next year, $33 million the following year, $36 million the year after that, and $38.6 million the following year. That's Ben Simmons' contract due. He signed a 5-year, $169 million extension back in 2019 that kicked in this year. So this year you're getting him for under $30 million. Next year, a tick over 30. The following year, a little over almost 34. And then 36 and $38 million. Is a team going to say, yeah, I'm going to take a guy making $38 million in the final year of his deal? Now, right now, how old is Ben Simmons? I think he's 24 years old. So 25, 26, 27, 28. When he is 28 years old, he's going to be making $38 million. You would hope in 4 years from now, when that contract is at the end of the line, that his game has evolved and developed. But as we all know, he has been in the league for 4 years. So what evidence do we have that 4 years from today, he will look any different than he did 4 years from 4 years ago? Because so far, he hasn't looked much different than the player we saw in 2017 and 2018. In fact, if you go back, his best season in the NBA has really been his second season in the league. That second season in the league, his rookie year, he averaged 16.9 points per game. He averaged 8.7 assists, and he averaged 8.7 rebounds. So 16, 8, and 8. He also added a steal and a half a game in. His second year, the scoring went up 1 point. The rebounds went up by 1. The assists stayed the same. The steals stayed the same. The free throw percentage went up from 56 to 60. The field goal percentage went from 55 to 56. But if you look at Ben Simmons' career, the numbers across the board, they're almost identical. I mean, it's almost, I don't know that I've ever seen a player where literally you see guys and they go from 16 to 18 to 20, from 22, if they're a really good player. Ben Simmons has essentially been the same player since, and this is the argument and the great point that a lot of people bring up, and it's fair. The guy has not improved in any aspect. In fact, this year, his numbers are the worst of his career. The scoring, lowest of his career. Now, why is that? Well, Joel Embiid's having the best year of his career. Tobias Harris is having the best year of his career. He's got better players around him. Okay, fine. I can take that. The rebounds, they're the lowest of his career. He averaged 9 2 years ago, 8 his rookie year, 8.7, I should say, and this year he's at 8. His assists, they're the lowest of his career. 8.7 his rookie year. He's only at 7.7 now. Last year was his best year stealing the ball, 2.1. He's at 1.8, pretty good. But here's the differences. 61% from the line. It's down from last year when he was at 62. So his free throw percentage has actually gone up every single year. His first 3 years, it went down this year. The field goal percentage, it went up, it went up, it went up, and this year it went down. So his first year, 55, his second year, 56, his third year, 58, and this year it dropped to 56. Of all the years Ben Simmons has been in the league, this one's his worst season to date. Not good. Let's go to the playoffs. And I start and say this by the 76ers need a confident game, the next 2 games, from 2 guys, Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, period, point blank. And I got numbers on Harris that are almost eye-popping that you'll hear in just a minute. But in the playoffs, for Ben Simmons, this is interesting. His career playoff record with him is 18-14. That's the Sixers record in the playoffs with Ben Simmons. They are a total of 18-14. And in those games, his rookie season, or I don't want to say his rookie year. Was it his rookie year? Yeah, his rookie season in the playoffs, was his best year. And in those playoffs, what happened? If you remember, in the Miami series, it's the best series he's ever had. Why? There was no Joel Embiid. And in that series, he averaged a triple-double almost. 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. Free throw percentage, 71%. Big difference. It's the best playoff series that Ben Simmons has ever played in. It's the first one against the Miami Heat. That's the best one. His second best one was against Brooklyn in 2019. And in that series, he averaged 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. And if you remember that one, I think they played a game or so without Joel Embiid. His worst playoff performance, that one appears to be right now. We're living in it. We're watching it. He actually had a similarly poor playoff run against the Raptors in 2019. In fact, the numbers against the Raptors, this is amazing. In the Raptors series, 36.3 minutes per game. In the Hawks series, 36.1 minutes per game. In the Raptors series, 11.6 points per game. In the Hawks series, 11.6 points per game. In the Raptors series, 7 rebounds. In this series, 5. In the Raptors series, 5 assists. In this series, 8. So he is assisting a little bit more, but the scoring is the same. It's unbelievable. But what is down is the scoring in this series from the scoring in the regular season by a significant bunch. So make no mistake about it, everybody. There are 2 guys that tonight must pick their game up, and they must not be their averages of the playoffs. They need to match what they did over the 72-game season. Ben Simmons needs to be the guy that he was during the regular season. And that means he doesn't have to score 18, 19, 20 points. But what he does need to do is help Tobias Harris not score 4. He needs to make sure that Joel Embiid is getting the ball in the proper locations and spots on the floor. And then sprinkle in whatever he adds offensively. He has to be able to do that. Because part of the problem the other night, I'm not expecting Ben Simmons to go on some crazy scoring spree, but he also can't be a spectator. He can't be a bystander just standing there watching Joel Embiid try to win the whole damn thing by himself. And that's what occurred on Wednesday night. Not fair. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Tony is watching the show on YouTube. Mike, tonight we get even. No more negative thinking. I've turned the page. Hey, look, I think one of the things that happened in that game the other night, Tobias Harris said something, and I want to bring that up. I'm glad you kind of set me in that direction. Tobias Harris kind of, to me, hinted that he seemed to be a little perturbed that they've been doing something all year long and that they kind of got away from it when they built the lead, right? He said about the game the other night and the game the night before that they blew leads. When we gain these leads, we kind of go away from what got us there. Playing defense, moving the basketball, and getting good looks. You know, Harris is a guy that they went to a lot in clutch situations. Our buddy Kevin Kincaid over at Crossing Broad, he put these numbers up. In the regular season, the Sixers got 53%, 44% from 3, and 91% from the free throw line from Tobias Harris in the clutch. Clutch time numbers for Tobias Harris. In the regular season, 53%. From three-point range, 44%. And from the foul line, he was 21 of 33. In this postseason so far, In the clutch, Tobias Harris is 33% from the field. He is 0 of 1 from three-point range, and he is 1 for 1 from the free throw line. So for whatever reason, Tobias Harris has shied away from the big moment that he didn't shy away from during the regular season. He embraced it. He took 9 threes in the regular season. He hit on 4. He went to the line 23 times. He made 21. For whatever reason, he's not taking the ball to the basket as much. He's not, one of the things about Tobias, it just looked different this year, is he'd catch that ball from 3, and in rhythm, he'd catch it and shoot it. There was no dribbling, looking like he was on a pogo stick. Tobias Harris has to be the confident version that we saw all regular season long. And guess what? If he's not, I think we have a great indication of, hey, Tobias, good player, can't be the number 2. Sorry, bud. It is what it is. In the famous words of many, including Ben Simmons, it is what it is. 609-403-0973. Mike, scathing article on the Sixers, specifically their version of the, Big Three in Philadelphia by Marcus Hayes. Would love to hear his vitriol on your show today. Keep up the good work, and hopefully Monday we'll be talking about the Sixers advancing. I did see the article from Marcus, but I did not read the whole thing. I kind of saw it kind of circulating, but I do agree. The part of it about not having heart and the talent that needs heart, I can totally get behind Marcus saying that Ben Simmons has certainly let this town and let his team down. I could certainly agree that Tobias Harris has let the team down by playing a style that he did not play all season long. There was nothing this season. Now, in the past, that's a different story. But there was nothing this season to suggest that Tobias Harris was going to be afraid of the moment. How's it hanging, Mike? I don't know that you want me to answer that question, Jeff. It's Friday, buddy. That's how it's hanging. Appreciate you checking in. Adam's watching the show on Facebook. Is it too early to have this conversation? Can we wait until the season is over? Or is it over? Thought they had a game tonight. The conversation is not about moving on. It's about how big of a game this really is. Because you know why, Adam? Your back's to the wall. The finality is there. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say, what's the impact of tonight's game? The impact of tonight's game is 7 years in the making of when this team was put together. It's 7 years of 3 of which were very painful for some fans. And the culmination of that understanding. I was thinking about this tonight. Part of the reason why I think fans hold Ben Simmons to a different standard than anybody else, including Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid was the number 3 pick, right? Joel Embiid was the number 3 pick. He fell to you, and that's who you ended up with. Ben Simmons was the guy that you got because you won 10 games. He was the guy that was, hey, he's LeBron James. He's Magic Johnson. So when people were kind of sold that, they thought this is the culmination of 3 terrible seasons, and this is what we're going to get. We're going to get this special piece that will never have to remember the Andre Iguodala days, the days of mediocrity, all of that, because we now got this guy. So people want this guy to be LeBron James, Magic Johnson, because that's what you were told he was going to be. So I think that's where the vitriol comes from Ben. Right? And unfortunately, Ben has not lived up to the comparisons that have been made to him. Totally fair. Totally accurate. 100%. He is not LeBron James. He has a lot of skills that LeBron James flashes and shows. He is not Magic Johnson, although he has a lot of the skill set that made Magic the player that he was, but he certainly lacks what those two guys have. A tremendous amount of confidence that every time they step on the floor, they are the premier player on that floor of their contemporaries. That's the difference. 609 403 0973. 609 403 0973. Sports Bash, Ryan Robinson. Remember when you said this team would be better with Ben than it would with Luka? Well, I know Luka's sitting at home and hasn't won a playoff series, but he's a very good individual player. Sometimes having the best individual player or a better individual player doesn't make you a better team. I think Luka's a better overall talent, but he's at home. Again. Ben has been to the second round of the playoffs multiple times. Every single time he has suited up for the Sixers in a playoff, they have made it to the second round. So Luka, individual statistics, certainly better. 100%, not even questioning. But the question is about team. The Sixers as a team have been a better team than the Mavericks have been with Luka. Luka's a better player. The team is different, better. Ben Simmons, second round. Hey, not good enough, though. That being said, losing in the second round, failure. Absolute failure for this team. McGarry at 240. Good try, Ryan Robinson. Do your homework, bud. McGarry at 240. Suzie Hunter, we talked to her a couple of weeks ago. She's doing the ballpark trip around the country to every ballpark. We'll find out where she is at 3. 2:27 on a Friday. It's Happy Hour Friday. It seems that many of you started your happy hour a little early today. And I don't blame you. It's beautiful out. Get out there, enjoy it. It's supposed to be a nice weekend the whole time. Jeff Bone, what's up? Love happy hours. I feel like I should join some of you in the happy hour. Kyle Davis, how nice would it be to have Jason Tatum right now? Yeah, it'd be pretty spectacular, to be honest with you. But a lot of people always go back to that Tatum thing. I see Adam said something about Markel Fultz. The Sixers were never getting Tatum unless they, in fact, drafted him at number 1, which nobody was suggesting. So I get it. It's very painful. And I, for one, was a big fan of Fultz. I thought he was a three-prong offensive player. And he was in college, by the way. Who the hell knows what happened to him? That'll be a 30 for 30 that I want to see. What happened to Markel Fultz? Because he was universally, I don't want to say universally, I would say 90% of talent evaluators, draft people, executives that run the league had Markel Fultz as the consensus number 1 player. Whatever happened to him, we'll never know. He's turned into a decent NBA player, but not the number 1 overall pick. And the Sixers have been struggling to find a guy to be Markel Fultz, what he was supposed to be ever since. Jason Tatum? Yeah, I mean, Jason Tatum would essentially be your Tobias Harris. You wouldn't have Tobias Harris or a need for him if you had Jason Tatum. He would kind of be that guy, the secondary scorer. So, yeah, you would certainly be better off with Jason Tatum. The problem I always have with that statement is unless you drafted him number 1, which you would have got roasted that night if you traded up and took Tatum. And if you stayed where you were at number 3, you weren't getting Tatum because the Celtics were going to take him. So I get the whole Tatum thing. It just, they would have had it done. And look, you could say, well, they should have done something that nobody would have expected. Okay, but that night we would have been ripping them for trading up to take a guy that nobody thought was going to be the number 1 overall pick. But yes, it would be very nice to have Jason Tatum. He is, I think, would be a tremendous number 2 player. He is like the guy who's just off the precipice of the group of number 1s. He might get there. He's pretty young. But I think right now he would be a tremendous, he would be like when Kyrie was the second player for LeBron, like right there, where you're kind of like, Kyrie can't be the best player, but if he's the second best player, your team can win the title. That's pretty much where I think Tatum is. The problem for Tatum is, can he be the number 1 player? And how do they get the number 2 player to go with him? They're trying right now with that trade today. They're trying to clear out space to get people to go there. So they got rid of Kemba Walker's contract. That'll help. $63 million off the books. And I got a lot of texts. 609-403-0973. Mike, Tobias has no choice but to prove himself tonight. Our backs are against the wall. No excuses. Hopefully he doesn't stay on the Paul George level in the playoffs. If he was on the Paul George level in the playoffs, that we saw the other night when Paul George scored 37. The problem is Paul George didn't do much in the fourth quarter, but he had a big game. I'm not knocking that. Yeah, Tobias Harris has no choice but to step up. The team, as constructed, was built based on Tobias Harris being the secondary scorer. Not Ben Simmons, not anybody else. Tobias Harris. This team was all year long put together with Tobias Harris being the second scorer. So here we are in the playoffs, and now all of a sudden, now he's still the second scorer on this team in the playoffs. The problem is, in the big moments, he hasn't been the second scorer, even in games that they've done pretty well in. I would say Harris's playoffs have been very up and down. He's had some good nights when they won. He's had some bad nights seemingly when they lost. That's concerning. I'm disappointed. I, for one, thought Tobias Harris showed in the regular season a different version of himself. The guys that we saw in years past, even when he was scoring, I didn't believe in that guy just because of his style of play. He didn't look like the guy that would be confident in a big situation. He looked different this year. He looked like a guy that was confident late in games. His decisiveness was different. So maybe shame on me for believing in that. Do I think he can change it? I'm skeptical. I really am. I'm skeptical that all of a sudden Tobias Harris flips the switch and becomes a closer in Game 6 of the finals of the playoffs with his team's back against the wall. He said it the other day. Our backs are to the wall. All right, does he listen to himself? 609-403. Mike, I'm done with Ben. His time is up. I cannot defend a player who will not work on his weakness nor play to his strengths. I would rather have Evan Turner. Well, never Evan Turner. By the way, Evan Turner, did you know that Evan Turner is an assistant coach with the Celtics now? Did you know that? I didn't know that until the other day. I was actually reading something on Evan Turner. I don't know why or how that came up, but he's now an assistant coach. He's 32 years old. Evan Turner, I hated that pick. Hated it. Okay, I will not. His time is up. I cannot defend a player who will not work on his weakness. We keep saying he will not work on his weakness. That being said, I don't think that he doesn't work on his weakness because, again, I have seen him with my own two eyes shooting the ball. He'll sit in that corner. If you go to a Sixers game, they let the media in a couple hours early. So I've been at a game 4:30, 5 o'clock. I think they let us in. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've been up there covering a game because of the COVID. If you get to the stadium early, you will see Ben Simmons shooting 3 after 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. And it's not that he's just shooting them. He's making them. Same at the free throw line. I mean, he shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots. So he does work on that problem. The problem is he doesn't take what he does in practice and translate it into the game. And I think he does play to his strengths. His strengths are setting other people up. His strengths are court vision. His strengths are getting out in transition. So he plays to his strengths. The problem is his weakness is the stuff that you want him to be good at. The stuff that his strengths are, you don't value all that much. Jason and Kate May, does Doc Rivers deserve more criticism? Where do you think he falls in assessing blame? He deserves some criticism. I don't love the rotation. I think his hands are tied a little bit. But you know me with NBA coaches, they're a little lower on the totem pole of reasons why I think teams win and lose in the NBA. I would say for this particular series, Doc Rivers has a role. He has an impact on why they're losing. I would say he's probably 4th or 5th on my depth chart of why Doc Rivers, why this team is losing. Where is Doc Rivers on that list? I would say 4th or 5th. I'll ask Mike McGarry where he thinks Doc Rivers is on the list. Some of the keys for tonight. And if they lose, will we see a different look to the 76ers organization? Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City is back for our conversation on a happy hour Friday. I like it. Grab a cold one out of the fridge and join the happy hour. I'm about to right now, says Darren in Millville. Well, whatever you guys are doing, whatever you guys are drinking on this happy hour Friday, let me know. I'll throw out my weekend IPA picks. All right? McGarry's coming up next. Stick around.
Jesus.
Happy Hour Friday, 20 till 3. Paul Hudrick inside the Sixers at 3:20 today. Big one tonight, Game 6. Will we see it back in Philly Sunday night? Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City is here. Boom. All right. The text board is going nuts today there, Mike, as many people anticipating what could happen tonight in this one. And obviously, you know, you've been around the team a lot this year, and one of the biggest surprises, I guess, was the transformation we saw from Tobias Harris, from guy that's good regular season player to seemingly a guy who was taking that jump. He went from an indecisive, good player to a decisive player. It looked like a guy who had mentally taken a step. So is he maybe the biggest key for the next two games?
No, I think the biggest key is Ben Simmons, but obviously Tobias Harris has a lot to play for, because I think last night he took a major step backwards in Game 5. For him to be making $33 million a year and only score 4 points, and for him and Doc Rivers to tell me that the reason he only took 11 shots and scored 4 points was because Seth Curry was hot is ridiculous. And Tobias Harris is one of the many Sixers whose legacy, how we feel about them as players, is on the line tonight and Sunday.
Did you get the sense from Tobias Harris that he was a little annoyed that they did not go through him, seemingly in that second half?
Well, I didn't get that sense that he was annoyed. I have a question. I have a hard time understanding, first of all, how the Philadelphia 76ers scored 19 points in the fourth quarter against a Atlanta Hawks team that had Trae Young, who might be the worst defensive player I've ever seen. Everything he does on the defensive end of the floor is wrong. Okay, he was out there in the fourth quarter. Lou Williams hasn't played defense since like 2004. Okay, he was out there. Danilo Gallinari couldn't guard a statue. He was out there. I heard you talking about Doc Rivers. How the Sixers couldn't call a set or run a pick and roll that got Tobias Harris matched against Lou Williams is just beyond me. And I put the blame on Tobias Harris. He took 11 shots. I'd feel better about him if he went 2 for 30 in the game. 2 for 11, 4 points is ridiculous. One of the many ridiculous things to come out of Game 5.
Yeah, Mike, the baseline, 117 left in the game. Harris goes baseline. He throws it to Embiid. That told me all I needed to know about where Harris felt, in that game the other night. And Embiid's like, what are you passing it to me for? He throws it back to him, gets his shot blocked. That's the one that went out of bounds and they, took a look at. But that told me Harris did not want that moment right there. And this has been the playoffs for him. He's been very up and down. That's why I'm having trouble thinking all of a sudden in Game 6, he's going to flip the switch and become Tobias Harris that we saw in the 72-game regular season.
Well, we'll see, right? I mean, tonight, it's him. It's Simmons most of all. It's Doc Rivers. It's Daryl Morey. It's everybody connected with the Sixers is, kind of on the front lines tonight for this game. We will see how they respond to, adversity that they put themselves in.
Yeah. All right. Let's Ben Simmons obviously has a complete lack of confidence. And yesterday, Doc Rivers admitted that this is mental. He said, I'm acknowledging this is a mental situation and he just needs to get past it. Ben says it is what it is, to quote some famous people who use that line. It is what it is, man. He said that 4 years ago. That quote has been going around now when 2017, when the Hack of Ben came out. He says it is what it is. He's not, at this point, Doc Rivers has his hands tied, though, doesn't he?
Well, to a degree, but I mean, this is, what one thing is, and you mentioned what the Sixers say, the Sixers have to stop talking. They just have to stop talking. Everybody can, if I was the owner of the team, I would tell them, shut down Twitter, shut down, Instagram, shut down TikTok, no more team social media. They need to go down there and win tonight and then win on Sunday. The Ben Simmons thing is, in my mind, over. I mean, no matter what happens the rest of the way, the guy is 22 for 57 from the foul line. Okay. He has taken 5 shots in the last 6 quarters. He has gotten worse in the fourth quarter of games since he's come into the league, not better. I don't want to hear from the Ben Simmons defenders, the analytics people, that when I go to a game and say, hey, Ben Simmons didn't play that well, and then they all tell me, but, he drives and kicks and he creates all these open threes and he creates these points. He's the point guard of a basketball team, and he's got to come out of the game in the fourth quarter in a close game because he doesn't want to shoot and he can't shoot foul shots. That's difficult to overcome.
How do we explain then? And I'm not saying that you're incorrect by any stretch. Everybody sees things. How do we explain how bad of a team they look when he doesn't play? They look completely discombobulated. The offense is stalled. It's out of whack.
Well, because he's the only guy on the team that in a regular season situation can get them into a set and run the offense. He is the team's best passer. He is the point guard. That's why it's so incredulous and hurts even more when you have to take him out with 3.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, which, by the way, Doc Rivers told us all 2 weeks ago when he was asked a question very respectfully, do you have to take him out? He basically told the media, you're nuts. You don't know anything about basketball. Well, now I look up and Simmons come out of the game in the fourth quarter all the time. So, I mean, that's what makes – he's the point guard of a basketball team. They number the positions in point guard. Point guard's number 1. That's because he's important. If you got to take your starting point guard off the floor in the fourth quarter, imagine the Trailblazers taking Dame Lillard off the floor. Phoenix taking Chris Paul off the floor. You can't take the point guard off the floor with 3 minutes to go in a close game.
I don't think that's their intention, but has it gotten to the point where he has forced them so much to do so because he has the foul shooting, Mike, right?
It's an embarrassment.
Right. The foul shooting has completely taken away the other. Like, they live with him not shooting free throws for the course of the year at 60%. But it's gotten so bad that now he won't even do the things that he excels at because he's so afraid to get to the line. And let me ask you, do you think it helps that the fans are cheering him on like a fifth grader?
I don't think so. I think it's embarrassing. I think it's embarrassing to the fan base. I always hear stuff about this fan base, this, and that. I mean, what a great home court advantage they have in Philadelphia. Well, they didn't have a home court advantage the other night. You're right. They're treating him like he's playing a rec game at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning in Linwood somewhere, basically.
Right.
He's 22 for 57 from the foul line. If he makes his next 43 in a row, he's a 65% foul shooter. It's absurd.
That's a good point. It's almost akin, though, when Markelle Fultz couldn't make the 3, and then he finally did, and everybody got up and cheered, and every time he touched the ball or shot the play, I said it was like that. Or you remember when the Phillies signed Pat Burrell to that huge contract, and he was hitting like 198 every time he came to the plate. They were like trying to will the guy to, like, you get the meme of the guy saying, hey, shoot it, come on, you got this. When you're at that point, I don't know that you can. I think the guy has completely now lost any confidence to be able to repair this.
Here's the issue. Playoff basketball obviously is different than regular season basketball. The problem the Sixers have had ever since the Simmons-Embiid era began is in the fourth quarter of a close game, okay, a playoff game, they do not have a player who can create a shot for themselves or their teammates. Jimmy Butler did it some of the time. That's why they were able to take Toronto to 7 games, okay? But now, the first year they had it. This year they don't have it. Embiid can't do it by the nature of his position. They need to be able to throw the ball to somebody on the perimeter, and that person has to create a shot for himself or his teammates. Now, not only do they not have that guy, in Simmons, they have a guy who does not need to be guarded. So if you watched the other night, Gallinari was guarding Simmons. Gallinari is sitting below the foul line. John Collins guards Simmons. They are sitting below the foul line. You are almost playing 4-on-5. That's why their offense stalls in the fourth quarter of these playoff games.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you remember back, I know Brett Brown took a lot of heat, but the adjustments that he made was he made Jimmy Butler the point guard in those bigger situations. He essentially said someone else has to do it, and he made that adjustment and said, Butler, you're going to be the guy. And apparently Simmons was not too happy about it.
Well, it's the same thing last year when Brett Brown said, they came into the bubble and he decided that Shake Milton was going to start again because he recognized they needed somebody with an opportunity who could create a shot, off the dribble for themselves or their teammates. And Simmons can't do it. And he is a hindrance to doing it. And it is, it is a major, major, major problem.
All right. Major, major, major enough that if they were to lose this series, that Daryl Morey would pull the trigger to move him out of here.
I think, look, I said the other day we should wait until the end of the series to make a judgment, but jumping ahead and asking the question of what it is now, to me, it's a no-brainer. You've got to look to move Simmons in the offseason. You've got to look to bring in a really, really good point guard / scorer. You see the two-man game work with Seth Curry and Joel Embiid, right? You see how well it has worked. I mean, let's all remember Seth Curry was the third guy off the bench for the Dallas Mavericks last year. Imagine what that would look like, that sort of two-man game would look like if you had, let's throw out a name, Dame Lillard running it with Embiid.
I don't know why the Mavericks made that trade, by the way. I don't think it worked out too well.
Well, it didn't work out well for them because people are losing jobs right and left over there. So
unbelievable.
That trade did not do well for them.
Is there something, because we mentioned that bench unit. Yesterday, Doc Rivers hinted that they might shorten that bench unit up. Now,
it's about time, right? I mean, that's Doc Rivers. What's he doing on the bench? The other night, Steve Nash shortened the bench. Kevin Durant played 48 minutes. I mean, how much more of George Hill do we have to see? I mean, shorten the bench. I mean, I hate to say it, but this is game 6. I don't know if he's physically capable of doing it, but we need Embiid for 40-plus minutes tonight.
Yeah. Well, I will say, and I agree. I said that the other day, it's enough. Durant's playing 48. These guys got to play 40, 42. They did play 38, 38, 39, 38, the 4 guys other than Korkmaz, but those
wasn't enough.
Those 2 or 3 extra minutes might have been the difference. I will say, he played the bench way too long, but his starters didn't give him much either.
Well, yeah, when he said they had to put him back in the game and messed up their rotations, but those bench linemen, the bench rotations, they've basically gotten, they lucked into a great game from Shake Milton off the bench in game 2, and they got a good quarter from Korkmaz in game 3, I guess, off the bench. Since then, I haven't seen the bench really do much at all. I guess you would play Thibault. You're going to have to play Dwight Howard minimum minutes because Embiid's going to have to come up at some point, and I guess you might want to throw Milton out there or Maxey for a minute or 2, just see if they got something special going that night. But you've got to ride the starters tonight in this game.
You starting Korkmaz tonight?
I'm starting Korkmaz because I still think that you've got to provide some spacing on the offensive end of the floor. And if you put Thibault out there with Simmons, now you have 2 guys who won't shoot the ball.
All right, game 6 tonight, 7:30 coverage right here on 97.3 ESPN. On Monday, is it post-mortem or talking about the Eastern Conference Finals?
Wow. For some reason, I still believe in them. I mean, again, we go back to the quarter thing, right? 20 quarters these teams have played. The Sixers have been the better team in 16 of them. The key tonight is I just think it comes down to toughness. The last 2 nights, John Collins, Trae Young, and the rest of the Atlanta Hawks have been mentally tougher. Who's mentally tougher tonight, Atlanta or Philadelphia? We're going to find out because Philadelphia has the talent. Who's tougher?
If that's the criteria, we might be in trouble tonight after these first 5 games. Mike McGarry's must-win column is a really good one on Ocean City senior Joe Rapetti, who is the captain of the football, baseball, and basketball team. Check that out over at pressofatlanticcity.com at AC Press McGarry. They'll play tomorrow night for a state championship. I believe, Mike, would be the first in their school history.
First in program history. They've gotten there twice before, lost both times, but they'll have a chance tomorrow against Pascack Valley, 7 o'clock start to win the first in program history. All
right. Check out Mike's piece, Must Win, at the pressofatlanticcity.com. All right, Mike, have a good weekend, man. Let's see what happens when you're back on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. Enjoy the weekend, Mike. See you later.
All right. He like all guests here on the Sports Bash. Little Sixers conversation. Hey, when we come back, you guys probably remember Suzie Hunter. She is the girl who is traveling all around to every single ballpark. She started in New York, Boston, Philly. Well, she left Philly. She's going to all 32 across this summer. We're going to find out where she is and a little look at each little ballpark's quirks when Suzie joins us next.
A town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN, home of the Philadelphia 76ers.
Simmons pokes it away, steals it, sidesteps him and jams a two-hand throwdown.
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
All right, it's Happy Hour Friday. What's up, everybody? Oh, the Friday edition is here. I would not like to be working. I have made that very clear. I would like to be doing what Suzie Hunter is doing. Periods to be getting ready for a ball game tonight. You remember Suzie. She's been traveling around, vlogging about every major league ballpark, and she will continue her journey. I don't recall where you left off the last time we talked to you, Suzie, but where are you at this stage now? I think it's been like 2 weeks since we last talked to you. What's up?
It's been a couple of weeks. Thanks for having me back on, Mike. I am in Atlanta right now.
Oh, the big A. All right, down in Atlanta. So what was your route to kind of get you? So let's just let everybody know. Suzie is road tripping to every major league park this year, and she's doing it to raise money. You can tell the people about how they can do that. TheSuzieHunter.com/MLB-road-trip. But tell the people about what you're raising money for with this road trip.
Yeah, so I am trying to raise $30,000 for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. I love them. They are champions of youth sports. So I figured let's send them some love. Kids have had a terrible year with the pandemic. So I'm raising this money. I love working with them. I'm going to be visiting clubs across the country too as I travel, like where it lines up. But yeah, I'm going to visit every MLB park. Atlanta is my 9th park this season.
All right, 9th park. The last time we spoke, I think you had been to the 2 New Yorks in the same day, right? You did a letter
4 games one day.
Right, 4 games one day. You were in Boston, and you did your hometown of Philadelphia.
Kicked it off in Philly, of course. So since then, I think I talked to you when I was on my way to Washington. So that was the worst weather I've seen. It was truly raining the whole game, and it got pushed to the next
ballpark, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I wish it was just nicer. I feel like I need to go back before this season is over because I was like with my friends and like they had just moved to DC. So a lot of time in the team store, a lot of time wearing Walgreens looking ponchos. I need a do-over in Washington. I really do.
Well, if it rained, they have that little street that leads into the outfield. And that's like when it's nice out, that's very happening. There's a lot going on. And like when people tell you about like cool ballparks, that one's not normally because it's, I don't know, maybe so new that people aren't like, hey, you got to, but it's an underrated one.
Oh, it was beautiful. And I would love to see it when it's nicer out. Also, when I was there, it was, still COVID. Like it was still not at capacity. And also, I think maybe people weren't trying to spend a Saturday afternoon in the rain. It was probably the emptiest I've ever seen a ballpark.
Wow. All right. So from Nats Park to...
let's see, what was next? I did Baltimore after that. Camden Yards is fantastic.
Isn't it funny to say that Camden Yards is now a classic?
A classic, yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like that one was like 1989, I think, is when that thing went up. So really, that thing's getting old.
Well, it looks great.
Awesome. It's such an awesome. I love Baltimore. If you know like the cool little places to go down there, it's such a great little place. All right, so Nats Park, then to Camden Yards.
Then I went to Buffalo to see the Toronto Blue Jays.
Wow. All right. So how was that? How'd they do at that park?
So this was like, I think they had just gotten up to Buffalo from Dunedin. So a lot of interest in the people in Buffalo getting up there. A lot of people wearing Buffalo Bills gear to a baseball game, which I thought was strange, but I guess Buffalo pride, you got to do what you got to do. Those tickets were so crazy expensive because they weren't at capacity, and it's already a minor league park that only holds maybe about 6,000 people, maybe a little more, but those were the most expensive tickets by far, which was really frustrating because it was Buffalo.
Gotcha. I saw Josh Allen throughout the first pitch there the other night. I guess you missed that one, huh?
I didn't see. I'm having trouble keeping up with games that I'm not physically at.
Makes sense. All right. Yeah. So from Baltimore to Buffalo, and so you missed You missed him in Dunedin, which kind of stinks because that's a cool ballpark down there. But
Yeah.
Buffalo too.
And then I went to Pittsburgh.
Great ballpark.
It was my first time there, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the city. I loved the park. I just really appreciate a city with a color scheme. I really enjoyed my visit to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I actually, when the Flyers played the Penguins at Heinz Field, I stayed at the hotel. Outside my window was PNC Park, and it was like, I've been there a couple times. I went to college in West Virginia, so I used to go to the Pirates game. And when I was in college, man, that park's that old because I graduated in 2000, and that park was in its first year.
Wow.
Yeah, so that ballpark is 20 years old now, or at least
they grow up so fast.
Holy mackerel. That place is awesome. Did you walk the bridge and do all?
Oh, every chance I got, I walked over that bridge. I was like, let me do a quick Starbucks run. Let me walk over the bridge. I loved it. I documented all the most interesting locks. BuzzFeed wants to do a listicle of the top locks on that bridge.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a great city. I was there for the game where Brian Hayes hit a home run, but then didn't touch first base. So counted as nothing.
Now, did you go to Permanente Brothers while you were there?
Yes, I did. Of course I did.
I know. It's like I used to do a show with a guy, and we went to the game, and I said, you got to go to Permanente Brothers. And he's like, well, I don't like coleslaw. I said, well, then you tell him not to put it on. He says, I can't be that guy. I said, but you're in Pittsburgh. You got to do it.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I went there and sat at the bar and all that. I was like, okay, what a vibe.
Pittsburgh's really cool. It's a great little it's small little downtown, but it's really, you mentioned the color scheme. I like that. The black and orange, everything's black and yellow. I mean, all right, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh too.
And then I stopped home and packed up the car for the long haul because
now, I did see on your Twitter account, which is at the Suzie Hunter. You can follow her. And she's doing video blogs of all of her stops along the way. So I did see that you are now backpacking it the rest of the way, right?
Oh, yeah. So I packed up my car. I put all my clothes in bins, and I've got all these bins for all my belongings and the things that I need. So I'm just living on the road now. So I'm going to be on the road from, earlier this week until the end of September.
So you went from Pittsburgh back home, and then where?
And then here to Atlanta.
To Atlanta. All right. Mm-hmm. So you're starting off the next leg of your trip here in Atlanta, and then where?
And then I'm going to start heading down to Miami this weekend.
Good planning by you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're going to Miami. Are you bypassing, or are you going to Miami over to St. Pete?
No, I'm going to head straight down there because I got people that I can stay with there. So I'm doing Miami, and then I'm doing Tampa.
Right. Well, Tampa, St. Pete. That's actually in St. Petersburg.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm doing Miami first and then Tampa.
So give us a couple of highlights from some of the stadiums that stand out in terms of the food. I think I saw a picture of you drinking a brewski at one of these games recently. When you're in Atlanta, you got to get the Hoplanta beer. That beer is epic.
Okay. You know what? Well, I'm going to go back to the game tonight, so I'll have to look for that.
You were at the game last night?
I was at the game last night.
Okay, that's where it was then. It's a, Terrapin was the maker of the beer you were drinking, which I'm familiar with because they make a low-cal, low-carb IPA for us keto guys, right? I'm in the keto thing. So
I'm a big keto fan. I didn't know you were a keto guy. Now I
lost 65 pounds.
I love it. Woo! I love it.
Right. So I know all the low-cal, low-carb. I could give you a list of them all. I mean, I know where they are, who makes them, boom, boom, boom. But Hoplanta does not qualify. But I drank it when I was at the Super Bowl down there.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, this is actually my first time ever in Atlanta. So I'm definitely, getting the lay of the land here.
Very interesting. It's like one part of the town is Georgia Southern. The other side's Georgia Tech. And this ballpark is an hour from the city?
Yeah, well, I'm staying a little closer to the ballpark. I'm not staying downtown. But yeah, that Battery area is amazing. I was out there last night after the game, and it was so cool. So many awesome bars, and everything was packed. This was actually the first stadium that I've been at where I felt okay, America's kind of back. I felt crowded. I was like, okay, actually, I didn't miss this part of bumping into people constantly on the concourse.
Well, it's funny because if you look at Susie's vlogs, her videos from the first, early in these games, you have masks on at all these ballparks. did you have to wear masks at all of the stadiums so far? Is that slowly kind of decreasing?
Yeah, I did not have to wear a mask at all in Atlanta, and I did not see a single person wearing a mask. And then I've been bringing them because I'm not sure like what everyone's policy is. It's tough to keep track because everything changes so fast. Buffalo wanted you to wear masks, like in bathrooms and stuff like that. But everything is just, it kind of just is rapidly relaxing. So it's been weird to, witness it, like all the changes happening right before my eyes at all these ballparks. But yeah, Atlanta, I did not see a single mask. Did not see anyone asking me to wear one.
So far, top 3 have been what?
Ooh, okay. So Pittsburgh, definitely a top 3 choice for sure.
You can leave Citizens Bank Park off.
I will leave it off because it goes without saying.
Yeah. Suzie, by the way, is from the Philly area.
Yes, I am. That's where I started. So yeah, that was my first trip, of course. So I'm always going to love it more than anything. I loved PNC Park. I love Tourist Park down here too. It's great. Lots of great food too. And I would say also top 3, I'm putting Camden Yards in there.
So no Fenway.
I guess that's tough. I also used to work at Fenway. So, I feel like it's just like very familiar to me. So.
All right. So Atlanta, now in your Twitter bio, of course, it says that you are a ballpark food expert. So where's the best food so far?
It's been tough because most of the parks that I've gone to so far, not everything is open. So people keep saying, Suzie, why aren't you eating the nachos? I'm like, I can show you so many pictures of empty nacho stands because no one's working them because these stadiums haven't been at capacity when I've been there. That being said, I saw a lot of food options here in Atlanta. So I feel like it's been really hard. People keep asking me like, oh, what's the food like? I'm like, well, I haven't really gotten to see everyone's food at full capacity.
Yeah,
we're still in a pandemic.
Yes, that's true. And I want you to tell the story that you were vlogging about how you asked a very famous Philadelphia food guy about a vegan cheesesteak, was it?
Oh my gosh, wait, I love this story. So I was at a Phillies game with my dad back in 2019, and I wanted to try the vegan cheesesteak. So we're walking around and I'm trying to find, it's Questlove's vegan cheesesteak. I've heard nothing but great reviews. So we're walking around. We walk up to this guy who is like in a stand, like looks like he knows what he's doing. And we're like, hey, like, do you know where the vegan cheesesteak is? And this guy's looking at us like we're nuts. He's like, you're asking me where the vegan cheesesteak is? Like, is this like really happening right now? And then we're like, talking to him, like laughing. And then like it kind of hits both me and my dad at the same time. We're like, this is Greg Lazinski. And we're standing like 100 feet away from his barbecue place. And we just like, neither of us recognized him. And we were just like, oh, wow, this is hilarious. So
That's
sorry.
Great.
We ended up finding it, but he was like a really good sport about it. And it was really funny. And I loved it. I'm kind of famous for not recognizing famous people when I see them. And this was just like another instance of that.
That was funny. I enjoyed that story. So, all right, Atlanta, Miami, Tampa Bay, and then I guess that kind of clears off the eastern seaboard here. So you're going like Tampa, shooting up to like the Midwest. Or are you going down to the Southeast? How you playing this?
All right. Well, I'm not going to give you my whole schedule because I'm trying to not be stalked. Thanks. So you'll see where I am when I get there.
All right. Sorry. So those 3, Atlanta, Miami, Tampa. You can follow where she's going at the Suzie Hunter on Twitter and tell everybody where they can donate for the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah. So on my website, thesuzieHunter.com/MLB-road-trip. There's a landing page for the link. So there's a GoFundMe there where I'm raising money for the Boys and Girls Clubs. Please donate. The goal is $30,000. We got a long way to go, but tell your friends, donate what you can. And I'm really excited to be involved with the Boys and Girls Club this summer.
Well, that's very cool. We will try to check in a couple of weeks to see where you're at. We don't want the stalkers to be driving across country with you, but we'll try to find out where you're going, where you're at. And because I love the ballpark stuff. If I could take a summer off and do this, I would do it in a heartbeat. I love that whole concept of getting in the car, doing a different game. What, do you got a beer behind you back there?
No, it's actually a Wawa iced tea behind you on the side.
Wait, did you get a Wawa in Atlanta, or did you bring that from home?
No, I stopped at the last Wawa in Virginia and stocked up.
Gotcha. All right. It looked like one of those Terrapin beers back. I was like, man, she really is a part of Happy Hour Friday.
Yo, Happy Hour Friday. No, still hydrating Friday.
All right, Suzie. Well, enjoy the games and have a excellent first half of the trip here.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
All right, we will see you. Suzie Hunter, thesuziehunter.com, and you can donate there for her trip for the MLB, for the Boys and Girls Club. There you go. And, of course, nice to have her on board here on this Happy Hour Friday. All right, we will have plenty more coming up, including Paul Hudrick, the Sixers tonight. What are the keys? You will find out from Paul coming up. I see your text. I will get to him. 609-403-0973. We're busy today. U.S. Open, Cam Rogers is here to tell us who to bet this weekend. Also, Happy Hour Friday with the PT. Yep, that'll be fun. Stick around. This is the Sports Bash.
You asked for it. You got it. Fast Track Checkout at either Matt Blatt Kia location. Buy it your way. Complete your purchase online or have us deliver it during the Trade Up to a Kia sales event at Matt Blatt Kia in Egg Harbor Township or Toms River. 0 money down and 0% financing for up to 60 months on every 2021 Kia Soul, Sportage, or Forte. Plus, we need your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Get out of that old car you hate with 0 down payment and 0% APR financing available for up to 60 months. Try Fast Track Checkout. Purchase completely online and have us deliver right to your home or office. Only at Matt Blatt Kia, where you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers with approved Tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1667 per 1,000 borrowed. Negative equity financed into new loan. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Expires 7/6/2021. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. And now on Route 37 in Toms River.
If you're ready to get back to work or are just thinking of changing careers, 97.3 ESPN's virtual job fair is the place to start. Just go to 973ESPN.com and click on the virtual job fair. You'll find exciting opportunities from a variety of local businesses, including
Hard Rock Hotel and Casino,
Town Square Media in South Jersey, Resorts Casino Hotel,
Cape May Lewis Ferry,
Maurice Piers in Wildwood.
Take the first step to a brighter future today. Visit 973ESPN.com.
Sheila, we need to set up Johnson's quarterly review.
Janowski Investments keeps portfolios profitable, but a double client base calls for double the advisors.
Hello. Hi, Janet. I'm so sorry. Pulling up your portfolio right now. Give me a sec.
Indeed can help them hire the people they need.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, my name is Jonelle, and a little thing that I love about Chick-fil-A's new Lemon Kale Caesar salad is every tender, warm, juicy piece of grilled chicken. It's a Caesar salad, but it's different. You have the Parmesan breadcrumbs and the mixture of lemon with that romaine and kale. It's almost something I can't explain, but it'll make you want to sing. Lemon Kale Caesar.
Order the new Lemon Kale Caesar salad on the Chick-fil-A app today. Available for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonial.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be signs that your digestive system isn't working at its best? But taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil supports your daily digestive health using a special plant-based fiber called psyllium. Psyllium works by forming a gel in your digestive system to trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Metamucil's gelling action also helps to promote heart health and slows down sugar absorption to promote healthy blood sugar levels. Start feeling lighter and more energetic by taking Metamucil every day.
You have the choice, whether it's going out for dinner or ordering takeout at a local restaurant or buying that new outfit from a local boutique. Those choices help to put money money back into your community. And Town Square Media South Jersey puts a spotlight on local businesses.
First Bank of Sea Isle City, Cape May County's community bank.
Dr. Lyle M. Back for everything from skincare to cosmetic surgery. Go to ilovelylback.com.
Egg Harbor Independent Branch Leader at Charles Schwab in the Consumer Square Shopping Plaza.
Filling Marble and Tile Outlet, Philadelphia Avenue and Route 30 in Egg Harbor City. FillingMarble.com.
Intuitive Women's Health in Summers Point, accepting new patients. Schedule an appointment today at intuitivewomenshealth.net.
East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows services all of South Jersey. If you call, they'll show up. Call East Coast today at 609-646-1444. Online at eastcoastroofing.com.
Thank you for supporting your local businesses. From Town Square Media, South Jersey.
All right, happy hour Friday, but hasn't been happy around the Sixers the last 48 hours. Can they turn those frowns upside down? There's Paul Hudrick, always a smiling face. A lot of negativity around this team right now. Doc Rivers had some interesting things to say yesterday. We'll chronicle some of that with Paul right now as Game 6 tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Tom McGinnis on the call, 7:30. Greetings, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well, Mike. Much better than most Sixers fans, I would say. How are you?
Twitter is a dark, dark place after a Sixer loss, isn't it?
It is. That's why I had to take the night off, man. I was like, I can't. And I love talking to people. I really do, even if we're having like a healthy argument. But I couldn't even do it because it was just so much vitriol, man. It was. I get it. I totally get it. But I was like, yeah, I gotta take a step back.
Yep, I agree with you. My text board and my video messages are not very kind right now, but that's okay. Let's talk about it because a lot of people want to know, is this series salvageable? Can they get this thing back home? Because if you take anything from the last two meltdowns, you would say this team has lost confidence in itself.
It's possible, sure. And I don't say that in a sense of like anything's possible. No, I mean, they went to Atlanta and they won Game 3. They should have won Game 4 in Atlanta. They should have, frankly, won Game 5. And they had like every game they've lost, Mike, too. They've had a very good chance to win. You could argue they should have won. So is it possible? Yeah. I mean, but to your point, it's going to take a heck of a mental and psychological recovery because to me, that's one of the worst losses I've ever watched. And I grew up a Philadelphia sports fan, Mike, so that says a lot. Yeah. That was one of the worst, most embarrassing, losses I've ever seen. It would be pretty incredible if they turn it around and win the next two games. That would be that could really maybe propel them into something. But yeah, I mean, it all starts tonight. They have to win tonight. I think Doc Rivers needs to coach a lot more desperate than he has in the first 5 games of this series. And if they get back to, if they get to Game 7 in Philadelphia, you got to like their chances.
Yeah, I mean, what about, you said it was an embarrassing loss and the way it is, and I agree. What about it is it the fact that Ben Simmons is getting cheered because he's shooting free throws at the fans? I mean, I felt like it was Markelle Fultz all over again, which is an embarrassment. Like, you're cheering an NBA player for doing the most basic of things. Like, is it that? Is it that, like, Tobias Harris essentially was a no-show in the fourth quarter? And, I'm almost, as much as Simmons – I think Simmons pisses me off or frustrates me more. Harris disappoints me, man, because I wanted to believe that the transformation he made from the Britt Brown offense to here, the decisiveness, the decision-making, he looked like a more confident player. Simmons, he frustrates you at the wazoo. Harris was disappointing because it was like he looked decisive and he looked different. And he looked like a different guy the other night. That bothers me almost more.
Yeah, I mean, it's, a lot of, and I get it. A lot of the frustrations have been thrown at Ben Simmons, and it's justifiable.
Warranted, by the way.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm a guy who defends him a ton, and he's made me look very bad. So, quite frankly, by the way he's played, I mean, and even the worst of his detractors couldn't imagine him shooting 32% from the free throw line. I mean, it's historically bad. It's one of the worst, free throw shooting postseasons of all time. But I'm with you, Mike, that to me, him and Tobias, it's right there as far as however you want to word it, disappointment, anger, just for blame, however you want to lay that, whatever term you want to use, they are neck and neck because both of them for the last 6 quarters have been abysmal. And I have a hard time kind of, I get it. Joel Embiid wasn't great down the stretch of the last 2 games, and I get that, but he can't do, like, as much as, yes, he's an MVP candidate, he can't do everything, and he's playing on a torn meniscus. Like, you have to help the guy out. So, and that's where Tobias Harris is supposed to come in. Like, to your point, all season long, Tobias Harris did so well in fourth quarters and closing games out. They ran offense through him. He looked really good to doing it. He was decisive. He was getting downhill. He was taking the shots that were there. He was going strong to the rim. You've seen none of that. And let's be like the Hawks. I don't want to discredit the Hawks. There's a reason they were up 3-2. They are playing harder. They had been the better team for 3 games. They are not a great defensive team. Clint Capella is a pretty good defensive center. Outside of that, they're really not a great defensive team. So for you, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, to not be able to elevate your games and take advantage of the mismatches you have, I mean, that it's just bad. And it's just that's the embarrassment part to me. And I just, quite frankly, I don't think that Doc Rivers has coached very well either over the course of the last 2 games. I think he could have done many things differently. And like I said, I think he's got to coach this game 6 like he should. Like, he's got to be very, very desperate in this game.
Did Harris seem disappointed that they ran stuff for him all year and it seemingly they phased him out the other night?
It was he gave it. I mean, and listen, I don't want to say, I don't want to react too much to a post-game thing. Guys are frustrated. It's emotional. He was the first one to talk, so it might have just been in the moment. But it did kind of sound like, he was kind of asked why he, wasn't really a part of the offense late, and he mentioned, well, Embiid, Seth and Joe were going, and we kept running that same action, and it kind of seemed like the ball didn't really, the ball wasn't meant for me. We weren't running anything for me. And that listen, I get that frustration when you're not a part of the offense, and then people are going to look at you like you and I are looking at him and say, where are you? Why aren't you doing, why aren't you producing? And I get it. It's tougher when they're not running it through you, when they've run it through you so often. But yes, I mean, a little bit of that might fall on Doc Rivers because I get it. Seth and Joel were hot. So he kind of kept running that little double drag action where it's, Joel and Ben kind of setting the double screen out top, get the ball either, and then from there, Seth either goes and drives, takes a 3, pass, dishes to Joe on the nail, and then lets him go to town. But I perhaps thought he was a little disappointed that maybe things didn't run through him at all. And I thought maybe there were opportunities where Doc Rivers, when he obviously saw that Joel and Seth had cooled off, that maybe that's the time that you go to Tobias, try to get him going. Not that Tobias gave you much confidence throughout that game that he was going to get it at some point. But yeah, I mean, they were all frustrated, and I get it. I mean, it was palpable. And I hopefully if you're a Sixers fan, you're hoping that they carry that over into some anger, and that's where they, start off in this game 6.
Doc mentioned that he acknowledged that the free throws are mental. It's obviously mental, I think was something to that effect. But when he now acknowledges and verbally acknowledges that, is that the point of no return for Ben Simmons at the free throw line then?
Well, listen, he did, when we talked to Ben Simmons, that was the most somber and most down I've ever heard him. In all the years I've covered him, I've never heard him kind of just sound so lost. So yeah, mentally, man, he's not in a good place. I mean, I think anyone would tell you that right now. He's just not.
He's got to know too. Like, he's a 60% free throw shooter, which is awful. But if he's 60% in the series, it's over.
Yeah, they probably already have this series won. You're right. And that's what's crazy is he could do the same things he's done offensively, maybe not be a big part of this, but if he's just okay from the line, yeah, you're right. The series might already be over. So yeah, of course, I'm sure he's not dumb. He knows that. He knows he was 4-14. He knows the crowd was trying to cheer him on just to make a simple free. He knows all this. He's not a dumb guy. He's a smart dude. So and he's prideful. I'm sure he doesn't want to miss free throws. And he acknowledged that it was mental. It's in his head right now. So I don't know if I'm Doc Rivers, I have to try to find a way to get him confidence back. So whether that's maybe instead of trying to run things through Joel Embiid early, maybe you try to run it through Ben Simmons early. Try to get him into the flow of the game early on and get him some confidence and get him up, get him a couple easy buckets and make him feel good about himself so that when he does get to the line, maybe he has a little bit more confidence that he's going to make them. Doc tried to say that he didn't think that it was bleeding over, but I mean, come on. 4 of 14. How can that not bleed over to the other parts of your game? How can you not feel as confident when you have the ball in your hands and when you're driving to the basket, when you're shooting so poorly from the line? So yeah, if I'm Doc Rivers, I want to try to do something early to get him going, get him involved in the offense to try to get his confidence up a little bit.
Oddly enough, though, Paul, they have gotten going early in these games and haven't been able to hold them. So I'll ask you, the Nets played 48 minutes the other night with their stars, 42 minutes for Harden. If they get a lead, does Doc Rivers just have to say, 20's not enough, I'm going to 30. If 30's not enough, I'm going to 30. Like, just keep the foot on the gas.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be the message. That's got to be the message throughout this game. Like, no matter, no lead, like literally, no lead is safe. You just proved it last game. You were up 26 and you blew it. So no lead is safe. Yeah. And like I said, I think Doc Rivers has to coach that way too. You can't you can't play 10 guys tonight. I'm sorry, you just can't do it. I would play 8. I would play 8 guys.
We've all seen the stat. He has blown the biggest leads in NBA playoffs. 5 of them are his of all of them.
Right.
And, is it because this is what he does? He plays and he sticks to it. And did he hint that he will shorten the bench?
He's always kind of plays it coy with the bench stuff. Like I never want to read too far into him with the bench stuff because he never really gives us a straight answer, or he'll say something and then do the complete opposite. Like he has done that consistently all season long. At one point he told us that all bench lineups are going to be done once the playoffs start. He told us, these guys on the bench aren't really going to be playing a lot of minutes. And then he continues to play either all bench or mostly bench lineups. So like I can't even take him for his word. Listen, if it were me, it's 8 guys. And quite frankly, I'm not playing Dwight Howard because I don't think Dwight Howard has been good in this series. He's been a big minus whenever he's been on the floor. They got the team seems to go the other way. I'm playing Ben Simmons at the 5, and that could be another way to get Ben Simmons going. Use him as a screener and a roller. Get him in those short rolls. Find his shooters. Maybe get him and Tobias and some pick and roll together. Find a way to get them both involved. Get them both going. Get out and run. When Joel Embiid's off the floor, tell Ben Simmons to go get rebounds and run. He can do the things that Dwight does, right? He can screen. He can roll. He can get offensive rebounds. He's not the shot protector Dwight is, but Dwight really hasn't been that great of a shot protector or a rim protector, if we're being honest. So, if it were me, like Ben Simmons is playing the 5, and I'm going with 8. And my 8 are probably this, and I'm also starting Matisse Thybulle, quite frankly. And then my 3 off the bench are Hill, Milton, and Korkmaz. That's how I'm riding it. That's how I would do it if I was Doc.
Yep, I got to shorten it too. I agree with you there. This is all or nothing, and nothing meaning if they lose this, they're done, which means you got to ask the question, Paul, if they lose this series, big changes or, hey, Doc was only here for a short offseason. Let's see if he gets a full camp with these guys. Or does Daryl Morey say, I've seen enough?
So I don't think it's quite that black and white. I think you're not going to – so let's say, that, like you said, this ends and 6 or 7 games, whatever. They lose this series. They go home early. It's a disappointment. There's no two ways about it. You were the number 1 seed, and you failed to get out of the second round. And this team, as it's constructed, somewhat constructed with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, has failed to get out of the second round. I would have some serious thoughts about if this is if that trio is viable, if the trio of Embiid, Simmons, and Harris, all at or near max players, if they can work when none of your max players can create an outside shot on the perimeter, which none of them can do. They're all great in their own ways. They're all special in their own ways, but none of them is a shot creator on the perimeter. So, but to that extent, like if I'm Daryl Morey, I'm not selling Ben Simmons for pennies on the dollar either. I need to get something for him. He's still only 24 years old. And he might have, he was almost the defensive player of the year. Like I'm not giving away a guy like that. So
that his value is plummeting because of this, or would teams line up
strong,
or would teams line up to say, I will take the runner-up in defensive player of the year, first team all defender, one of the best open court players in the game?
Well, a couple of things. One, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So it's going to depend on the team. And all it takes is one GM to love Ben Simmons. And it's about fit. Like maybe Ben Simmons doesn't fit here, right? But maybe he goes, I don't know, like a team that already has a really good offense and just like, I don't know, like I don't want to like go into a whole thing, but like imagine him going to like Dallas and playing with Luka. Where Luka, he could be a really good lockdown defender, maybe play more of a traditional 4, play some pick and roll with Luka. That could be interesting. whatever. There's plenty of teams where I think a guy like Ben Simmons could be a very big move for them and make them very good. But to me, if I'm Daryl Morey, it also has to make sense for me. I am not just giving him away. I want to trade him to a team that, like you said, views him still as a possible franchise cornerstone and a big piece. And I keep saying, I get it. I get the frustrations. I get the lack of improvement of his shot and all that. But he is still 24 years old, and he still has a lot of God-given gifts and could potentially be a defensive player of the year. So that's not nothing. Those things all matter. So I'm not selling low. I want something in return if I'm Daryl Morey.
Real quick, Monday when you are back, post-mortem or getting ready for the Eastern Conference Finals?
Oh, man. I don't so to me, here's what I think. I think if they win Game 6, they win Game 7. I really do. I think at home, I think they do.
3 games at home in this series. I agree with that.
Yeah, I didn't think they were going to lose 2, but I do think because if they can overcome that mental and psychological hurdle and move on from that last game enough to win Game 6 on the road, I feel pretty confident that they can then come home and win Game 7. With that said, I don't feel great about tonight because I think it's going to be such an emotional battle, and I think the Hawks feel really good. Like the Hawks feel like, go ahead, you can go 20. We're going to come. Like they feel like they're almost indestructible. Like they can come back from any lead now. So yeah. I don't feel great about the Sixers' chances of winning tonight. But if they do, I think they win Game 7.
All right, Paul Hudrick, 97.3 ESPN.com. Check him out after the game at Paul Hudrick on Twitter for tonight. Paul, I'll talk to you Monday, man.
Sounds good, Mike. Take care, man.
He is going to be covering that game, of course, for the website, 97.3 ESPN.com. When we come back, the U.S. Open is underway. We got some surprises early. We will tap into Cam Rogers is back from the Believe Podcast Network, host of the Tiger Woods podcast. John Rahm, interesting story from a couple of weeks ago, picking up where he left off. We got all that, some betting tips for you for the weekend of the U.S. Open next. Sports Bash Friday. Happy Hour Friday. You hear that in the air. It's brought to you by Clark's Moving Storage in South Jersey for your next local or long-distance move. Clark's Moving and Storage is your first call. Dependable and always show up online, clarksmoving.net. All right, U.S. Open is underway, and Cam Rogers at Mr. Rogers 99 is here to kind of give us a little lowdown of what we've seen and what we can expect at Torrey Pines. He's a national golf contributor and host of the Tiger Woods Pod on the Believe Podcast Network, and he is kind enough to join us on our Happy Hour Friday. I figured that you would be saddled up to the TV and deep into this tournament by now, but it's nice of you to take a couple of minutes to tell us what we've seen so far, Cam. What's happening?
What's going on, Mike? Great to be with you, my friend. Yeah, it has been a lot of golf today. I actually created a Peacock account solely for watching the U.S. Open this week.
Peacock is making the Phillies fans, the whole series this week is on Peacock. They're really making everybody go over there, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy, and I guess it's free, too. I mean, I can watch it for free, so I'm wondering what the angle is. They're probably going to email me a million times next week. I'm waiting for it.
Well, we'll see, because I know Philly fans are like, wait, I got to do what?
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into a little bit of what's going on here. Who is Richard Bland, and why is he leading the biggest American, our national golf championship?
Truly an unbelievable story. The oldest winner on the European Tour just last month, winning the British Masters #1. So he comes in with pretty good momentum, even though we hadn't really heard much about him on the PGA Tour, because that's with good reason. It's his second start here in the States, which is truly unbelievable. Just his fourth major championship start, 2 at the Open Championship and 1 at the 2009 U.S. Open at Bethpage Black, where he missed the cut, shooting 77 and then 70 Thursday and Friday. Truly unbelievable stuff. I mean, we're talking about a PGA championship where Phil Mickelson at 200-1 won it all. And we have a guy named Richard Bland, a contender at the United States Open. It just goes to show how random and volatile the game of golf is. By the way, Jordan Spieth is going to miss the cut. So it's like one of those crazy stories where you have a Ben Curtis or Sean McKeel type of situation where somebody out of nowhere is contending at a major championship and could perhaps hoist the U.S. Open trophy on Sunday evening. But, Mike, I caution everybody out there, we have the likes of Brooks and Rahm and Xander right behind him.
Right, but one name you didn't mention who won the Masters was Phil, and he was on top of the world, and he's one of the mega stars here. So for the last couple of weeks, his name has been in constant rotation, especially on those commercials previewing Brady, Rogers, Phil, and DiCecco. But what is he doing this weekend?
He's not playing so well. Obviously, he went 4 over yesterday, and he's going to have to fight to make the cut. As we stand right now, the projected cut is at 4 over par. So Phil should probably shoot -1 today, this evening, for him to have a shot to make the weekend. I actually placed a bet on him to miss the cut because I did not think Torrey Pines set up well for him at this age. Yes, he's a San Diego guy. Yes, he knows Torrey like the back of his hand. But it doesn't matter if you know the course, if you're missing fairways and you're hacking it out of the rough the entire round, right? He sprays it too much off the tee. So I didn't like him this week going into the tournament. I also didn't like him at the PGA, so I could have definitely been wrong this week. But it looks like Phil is going to struggle to make the weekend. Again, he plays later this evening. We have primetime golf here on the East Coast. He tees off at 4:36 Eastern time. So stay tuned for that. You'll have some primetime Phil here on this Friday evening, but he's going to have to fight hard.
I like that. I like the primetime. I love when these tournaments happen to be out west and you get them like this. We're here on the East Coast here. All right, Cam Rogers, the national golf contributor, host of the Tiger Woods Pod on the Believe Podcast Networks. All right, so what else we got going on? John Rahm had a wild story happen to him with the whole COVID situation, but it seems that he's right back to where he left off.
Right back to where he left off, Mike. Truly unbelievable. He gained 21 strokes on the field through 3 rounds at that Memorial Tournament before he got bounced due to COVID, of course. So coming in with fantastic form. I mean, he has been truly unbelievable tee to green this entire calendar year. The only caution I had going into this week was, how was he going to deal with the post-COVID isolation? What was happening in between the ears? Turns out, not too much. He's doing just fine. 2 under par as we stand. just 3 shots off Richard Bland. And one would think probably, Mike, that Richard is going to fall back a little bit tomorrow. Maybe the major championship pressure will get to him on a Saturday at a U.S. Open. And Rahm could certainly make a charge tomorrow as well. He can have that fireworks type of round on moving day, and he can certainly be a factor come the weekend. So he has truly been unbelievable so far this year. He is the de facto winner of the Memorial in my eyes, not Patrick Cantlay. Sorry, Patrick. So, look, I think he's going to have a fantastic weekend. If you want to place an early outright bet on him now, I think that would make some sense. Maybe also with Brooks Koepka, too. Some good value there.
All right. You got Brooks Koepka back in the Open. He didn't play last year with the knee injury, seeking his 4th consecutive start with a top 2 finish. He hasn't done that at a U.S. Open since Bobby Jones in the 20. Nobody's done that. So what are his expectations for this weekend?
Yeah, going for that 3rd U.S. Open trophy that would tie Hale Irwin and 1 Tiger Woods if he were to get that done this weekend. Brooks Koepka might be the best U.S. Open golfer for the next decade, outside of maybe Bryson DeChambeau. He truly has the strength, the muscles, the ability to hack it out of that rough. He can just bomb it off the tee and not worry at all because he's hitting 9 irons and pitching wedges out of the rough, which is no problem for him with those muscles, right? If we're talking about somebody like a Jordan Spieth, you wonder why he's struggling this week because he's missing fairways and he's hitting 4 irons out of the rough. You can't hit greens with 4 irons out of this thick Kikuyu grass. So Brooks Koepka, it truly is unbelievable, Mike, how he can play a PGA Tour event like a regular PGA Tour stop, miss the cut, show up at a U.S. Open, and sit right there at T7. I mean, earlier this year, he actually missed 3 straight cuts, shows up to the Waste Management Phoenix Open in February, and wins. So forget about recent form when you're talking about Brooks Koepka. He can pop anywhere, anytime, and so far, he's playing pretty darn well.
All right, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, he logged his first top 10 finish. That was actually last week in 4 months. So Dustin Johnson is seeking his 2nd career Open victory. He's the world number 1. He's missed the cut in each of his last 2 majors.
Right.
So are we anticipating him being a factor?
As we stand right now, he's T43. He's 2 over par. He's going to make the weekend, so no problem there. That miscut streak is over at the major championships, but he's got a lot of work ahead of him. But, it's the same logic with Jon Rahm. He can have that fireworks type of round and fire something like a 5 under par tomorrow and get right back in it because he can dominate on the par 5s when he wants to, thanks to that length there. So keep an eye on him as we go forward. He has been a little rickety for the last month and a half or so. I mean, yeah, he was top 10 last week at the Palmetto Championship, but let's be honest, that was essentially a Corn Ferry Tour event. It was not a very good field whatsoever. And for the people out there, that's the AAA of the PGA Tour, by the way. So DJ coming in with just okay form, I guess. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, though. He's one of those guys who can pop, obviously, number 1 in the world, as you mentioned, and rightfully so. He is dominant with the driver, dominant with the irons, and he can take advantage of par 5s. But he's in that bucket with like Patrick Reed and Joaquin Niemann at 2 over par, who are going to have to do something magical tomorrow to get back into it.
All right, the defending champ, Bryson DeChambeau, he won at Winged Foot in September, so he could become the first player to win the same PGA Tour event twice in the same season since 1944. He's the defending champ. So what are his odds for this weekend?
Look, if you're looking at outrights right now, there's some serious value on Bryson DeChambeau. I would cash that ticket because he bounced back nicely today. 2 under par. He was 73 yesterday, 2 over par. Sits at even, T19 as we stand. You would expect a lot of the afternoon, or for us, evening wave players to fall back a little bit. Why is that? Because the winds pick up out there in California in the afternoon. The greens are going to get crustier and certainly less moist. So you would think Bryson would slowly move up that leaderboard as this day goes on, even with him not even being on the golf course. And there's a possibility, by the way, if Brooks falls back, those two could be paired up tomorrow and maybe even Sunday as well. And of course, we all know about this rivalry between Bryson and Brooks. That would be fantastic for eyeballs on the TV sets this weekend. But look, yeah, Bryson, another bomb and gouge type of player. He is a guy who can bomb it off the tee, doesn't matter where it goes, and then hack it out of the rough, hit the green, and maybe make a couple birdies and be a factor. That's what he did at Winged Foot. Nobody thought he could do it, but he did. Nobody thinks maybe he can do it this weekend. I think he could, and we'll see what happens. But Bryson and Brooks, I think, are going to be the best 2 U.S. Open golfers for the next 7 to 8 years because of that logic, that bomb and gouge type of mentality. And until the USGA catches up to that, those guys are going to continue to be factors.
John Rahm is still the betting favorite, but Cam Rogers, who are some of your best bets this weekend?
Yeah, so I would look down the board a little bit and maybe look to a guy who can have some fireworks himself, Rory McIlroy, 42-1 to get it done in the outright market. I think that is worthy of some studying. But I really am on Brooks Koepka. I mean, obviously, I'm on Xander Schauffele because if you guys don't know, I picked him entering the week, so you should cash that out as well, sprinkle a little bit down there. But Brooks Koepka at plus 600 to win outright is something that makes sense for me. For anybody placing some match bets later today, Tommy Fleetwood versus Jason Kokrak. You guys have like 10 minutes to cash that out, but Kokrak is getting plus money over Tommy Fleetwood. I'll take that all day long. Kokrak with 2 wins on the PGA Tour this season. Fleetwood has just been so he's had a consistency problem. So keep that in mind as well. There's an interesting tourney special right now, Mike, on FanDuel at least. The tournament winning score, -5 or better or -4 or worse. -4 or worse is plus money. -5 or better, -158. I think it's going to be -5 or better. I think somebody's going to have a really good day tomorrow toward that front of the pack and then really push this winning score to maybe something around 7 or 8 by the time the weekend is over. I'm not seeing a lot of wind in the forecast. I'm not seeing a lot of dryness. So that could make for some receptive greens. And so if you want to place a bet on that, -158, -5 or better for the winning score.
All right. 4th longest course in U.S. Open, Torrey Pines, which is Tiger Rocco had that famous match. When was that? 08?
08. Yep.
How quickly time goes by. How's Tiger doing, by the way, you know?
Yeah, he's out there in L.A. actually, or recently he was spotted probably going to his doctors, his follow-up appointments. Of course, the accident happened in L.A., so he's probably out there making sure things are moving smoothly with his recovery process. You know, actually, NBC reached out to Tiger to be at the broadcast this weekend. He declined. I'm not surprised, although it would have been amazing if he was a part of the broadcast team this week. But he's getting better, slowly but surely. Again, I'm still on the whole 2023 early timeline for him to come back to the PGA Tour, but he will come back at some point, but we have to be patient a little bit.
Cam Rogers at Mr. Rogers 99. He is a national golf contributor and host of the Tiger Woods Pod on the Believe podcast networks. And check out the U.S. Open all weekend long. You heard what he said, a couple of bets there for you. All right, Cam, appreciate it, man.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
All right, here we go. Moving along on a Friday, happy hour Friday. I can't believe it's 4 o'clock already. Yeah, and you know what that means. It's time for football at 4. It's coming up next. Andrew DiCecco is in the house. We'll talk a little NFL, little Eagles, little everything with him next here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And don't forget, you can watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just search 973 ESPN. All right, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which dropped yesterday. It was another really good edition from Jeff and Adam. Today, it's Andrew DiCecco, who wrote about the 5 camp battles that he is looking forward to. We'll kind of break those down for you here as we are about a month and a week to Eagles training camp, July the 27th. And Andrew DiCecco here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN on a Happy Hour Friday edition as we never forget the NFL here during Football at 4. Andrew, how are you, my man?
Hey, Mike, doing great.
All right, so over at InsideTheBirds.com, you took a look at the 5 summer camp battle or the summer battles that will be going into camp, and we'll take a look at some of these and get your breakdown on because, you know, the word competition has been out there a lot, and you look around the starting spots on this team, and it seems that not many of those are up for grab, but there are still a lot of camp battles on here that we're going to be taking a look at. Let's start with number 5 on your list. And who's the backup running back behind Miles Sanders? Let's kind of break down the competitors here. Johnson, Howard, Boston Scott. I guess the rookie also would be thrown in there as well.
Yeah, I think Kerryon Johnson wins that battle. He's the most talented of the bunch, and he has a more versatile skill set than both Boston Scott and Jordan Howard.
So Johnson, do you kind of look at it as Johnson is battling Howard for a spot? I mean, are those kind of like one of those guys make it, or is there a possibility that they both could make it?
I think there's certainly a possibility that both of them can make it. They're both between the tackle runners, yeah, sure, and they have that physical element to the offense, but Jordan Howard's not as good of a pass catcher as Kerryon Johnson. He can be more of a short yardage back. Kerryon Johnson can give you more as a pass catcher out of the backfield than both Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard can. Boston Scott is more of a number 3 or number 4 running back. He kind of got exploited when he had to take on more of a lion's share of the offense, taking care. He wore down with his carries. He's a small guy, so he's best when utilized and sparingly, I would say.
So if Miles Sanders were to miss a game to the season, whatever it may be, Kerryon Johnson, you think would be the guy that would kind of be leaned on to be, you know, the main running back on this team?
If he can stay healthy, yes.
Boston Scott, as you mentioned, it's interesting. When Sanders is out, Scott seems to give you more, obviously, because he gets more touches, but he doesn't seem – well, this is with Doug Peterson. We don't know how that's going to change with Nick Sirianni, but is Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell in a competition, or can they both have a role on this team?
I think I think Boston Scott's more in a competition with Gainwell than he would be with Jordan Howard or Kerryon Johnson. When you look at what both of those players bring to the table, both Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, they're both a little bit smaller players that have a more compact build. They run tougher than their size would indicate. They can catch the football. They're kind of Gainwell's not as explosive in the open. Neither player is really explosive in the open field. They're slippery, but they're not necessarily home run threats. I think Kenneth Gainwell, given his pedigree, his age, and what he's capable of becoming ultimately, I think he has a higher ceiling than Boston Scott. I think he's going to make the team, of course. I think Boston Scott, out of all the players, I think both him and Jordan Howard are on the outside looking in.
Yeah, as you write at InsideTheBirds.com, Andrew DiCecco says that Howard might be the most unexciting option, but he's also a pretty good pass protector. So it seems that each one of these options all kind of do something well, but none of them, you know, kind of do the same thing well. Where you got Howard's a good pass blocker. Johnson might be better at this. Scott's better at catching the ball. Gainwell is going to be a very elusive kind of guy. They all seem to do excel at something differently.
Right. But I think if you're looking at if you're assessing the guys who are in contention for the number 2 or number 3 role, I think should Miles Sanders miss a game or two, neither of those guys outside of Kerryon Johnson can handle anything more than, 6 to 8 carries. Boston Scott's a 6 carry a game guy. Gainwell is going to be sprinkled into the offense as a rookie, I imagine. Jordan Howard is not flashy. He's not a home run threat. He's more of the short yardage thumper. I think Kerryon Johnson could handle 10 carries or so. I think it'd be more of a committee approach, but I think that Kerryon Johnson would be the second option.
All right, Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4. Number 4 on your list, it is Wide receiver number 4. I think we all kind of envision that you're going to see Jalen Reagor, Devonta Smith, and probably Travis Fulgham. But after that, these 4 guys can either make the team or get cut. It's very wide open between Greg Ward, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Quez Watkins, and John Hightower, who, similar to that running back, they all kind of do something a little different. They all add a little something. You got Ward, who's very steady. You got, well, I don't know what Arcega-Whiteside adds at this point. Maybe a bigger catch radius and a guy who's a red zone target. Quez Watkins, probably a guy that you could do a lot of different things, bubble screens, jet sweeps. And John Hightower, who has shown the ability to get past the defense. So, wide receiver 4, how do you see that one breaking down?
Well, it's interesting because there's a number of different players vying for that role, and like you said, they all bring a different element to the offense, right? I mean, J-Jaw he's certainly not lived up to anywhere close to the standards of what a second round draft pick should. And he's only has 14 catches and I believe 25 career games, which is abysmal. That's horrendous, right? There's no denying that. But let's see what he can do with Nick Sirianni and this young coaching staff who all have a wide receiver development background, and they're going to be a little bit more innovative and a little bit more adept to scheming towards player strengths as opposed to sort of trying to shoehorn them into the offense and making them do things that they may not be as adept at doing. So, I mean, yeah, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside might be a good red zone option. He could be a good possession guy, adds a little bit of size. He's going to have to probably show that he can contribute on special teams. I mean, they might not want to rule out him adding 5 to 10 more pounds and making him more of like a hybrid tight end, if nothing else, because he invested something in him, a pretty substantial draft capital. So you kind of want to exhaust all your options before you part ways. But I mean, then you look at Greg Ward. Greg Ward, for the better part of 2 seasons, has been the Eagles' most consistent wide receiver. Doesn't have the size, doesn't have the speed, but he's proven that he can not only play the slot, he can also play the outside. Just has a feel for finding the openings in the zone. He sees the game through the eyes of a quarterback. He was a former quarterback, of course, at Houston. So he's a route running technician. Is he going to break a tackle and create yards after the catch? No, but he's a steady presence. He has a good rapport with every quarterback that he's seen snaps with because he's just he knows how to get open, and he's consistent at catching the football. He can also return punts, so there's added value there. But he doesn't give you – he's very limited in terms of what he can do. I think that when you look at the younger receivers in Quez Watkins and John Hightower, they add a vertical element. They're electric in open field, and they can do a number of different things, taking the ball out of the backfield and just overall take the top off of the defense. And that's not something that J.J. nor Greg Ward can do. Rager can do it, but outside of that, they don't have a lot of guys that have that ability to stretch the field. So I think Hightower was somebody who was kind of thrown into the offense early in his rookie season. He looked unprepared. He looked overwhelmed. He struggled. He battled through confidence issues. His route running, which I had seen him at the Shrine Bowl, his route running was one of his strongest areas. He looked very lost as a route runner. He was kind of just sort of drifting through his patterns, didn't catch the ball consistently. Quarterbacks just seemed to lose confidence in him, and I think he ultimately lost confidence in himself, which kind of paved the way for Quez Watkins, who came on last season in a limited role. You got to see what he was able to do. He flashed, and he showed his explosion in the open field. I think he's going to kind of be one of those training camp standouts this summer. I kind of pegged him to win that number 4 job going into training camp.
All right. It's funny. So Watkins, okay, I want to ask you, of that group, which guy excites you the most?
Of the 4, Quez Watkins.
So you feel like he can be the biggest contributor of those guys?
Yeah. Is he going to be a target monster and suddenly command a prominent role on the offense? No, I'm not suggesting that, but I am suggesting that he has the traits that the Eagles need, and I think that he showed towards the end of last season when the lights started to come on for him. I think he's going to carry that momentum throughout the offseason and learn from. I think he's somebody that seemed to take to the coaching last season. He wasn't a factor early in the season. He really started to come on last year, and I think that's sort of going to carry over. You're going to see him kind of carve out a more a role where it can be an explosive option in the offense where they can maybe stretch the field with him, get him the ball out of the backfield on dump offs. You saw what he was able to do. I believe it was against the Cardinals, if I'm not mistaken, on that long run and catch and run, which he scored on. So he can do some things, and he's also a lot younger than John Hightower. John Hightower is 25 years old, and I don't think that he has the necessary play strength to command a larger role.
Let me ask you about Hightower real quick, because he averaged like almost 17 yards a catch. He had a catch for 50 yards in one game. He had a catch for 59 in another game. If they polish him up, could he be something?
Yeah, I think he can. And let's not forget, he spent 2 years at the JUCO level at Hines Community College, and he played 2 years at Boise State. He didn't command a ton of targets his first season. He really broke out in his last season at Boise State. So he's still very much a raw player at 25 years old. And I thought that the Eagles turned to him and gave him a little, sort of overburdened him early as a rookie. And I don't think that he was equipped to do that at that stage of his career, but it was out of necessity. And I think that kind of showed the lack of confidence that they had in J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. But John Hightower, he needs to refine his route running. He needs to catch the football better. He needs to learn how to separate and run professional routes in order for him to be an NFL receiver or have any kind of a future with the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right,
otherwise, he's going to sort of be the guy that sort of toils around on the practice squad and gets a call up here or there like Deontay Burnett.
Yeah, and then, of course, you got Ward, who, very Mr. Dependable. It's kind of hard to see them just parting ways with a guy when everybody else is so unproven. He's about the only proven guy that they got. So that one will be very interesting. Number 3 on Andrew's list of camp battles to watch is the nickel linebacker, which is very interesting. This is Alex Singleton, TJ Edwards, Davion Taylor. All 3 of those guys seem to really bring different skill sets.
Yeah, I mean, you have Alex Singleton, who had 120 tackles last season, 5 for loss, 2 fumble recoveries. He had that interception that was thrown right to him. He started 11 games. I mean, the question for him is, and he did show tenacity and instincts, and he flowed to the football. But now the question is, was that season, was that more of a product of teams not knowing what he was? And now if there's film on him, they're able to adjust? Or is this kind of the player that he was, and they sort of unearthed the gem there? I think out of the players that are vying for that job, I think he's the best option at this current time. I mean, looking at Davion Taylor, I think he's still a raw project, and he's going to see a lot more snaps than he did last season on defense in a sub-package role. But if anyone expecting him to sort of assume a prominent role, it's just not going to happen. You can't throw somebody out there that doesn't know what they're doing just because they run fast. They run like a gazelle, right? I mean, that's a recipe for disaster. I think he still is a year away from being a contributor. And then you look at TJ Edwards. TJ Edwards is someone that I had high hopes for going into last season. He's really impressed as an undrafted free agent, but he doesn't run. He lacks lateral quickness. He's more of a early down run defender. Can't cover well, but he did have 2 sacks last season. He can get after the quarterback. He can stuff the run. And so there is a role for him. I think he would ultimately be the 3rd linebacker, but I just don't think that he's athletic enough to assume one of the top 2 roles on this team.
Davion Taylor, 3rd round pick. I know you've said before during our segments that, this is a raw guy. Do we expect him to have a role this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair expectation given he was taken in the 3rd round, and they touted him and they promoted him as being this player that they had plans for. So in year 2, I think that he's going to be not just a special teams guy. I think he's going to be a key cog on that unit for sure. But I think on defense, you'll see him sort of gradually get some plays here or there, a few plays here, and then sort of towards the end of the season, I think they're going to sort of try and find a package that they can utilize his athleticism, his lateral quickness, his coverage ability. But I mean, even when I watched this film in college, he was just a player that was all over the field, but he played like his hair was on fire. He was often over pursued plays, and it just looked like they had a raw athlete out there that didn't exactly know his assignments, and that's a problem. And I think that that's kind of what what he showed last season, and that's why he really wasn't a factor. And you saw Sean Bradley play over him.
Yep, Sean Bradley as well as another guy, Temple guy, who's on this roster. All right, the nickel linebacker, Alex Singleton, by the way, who played pretty well last year, right? Do you think he meshes well with Eric Wilson?
Yeah, and by the way, Eric Wilson is someone that the reason why he wasn't mentioned is I believe he's going to be the top linebacker on the team. And of the players that I mentioned, I think Singleton pairs best with him. They're guys that are going to flow the football. I think Singleton sort of got exposed against covering Robert Tonyan against the Green Bay Packers last season, but I think overall he really tightened up his coverage. Is he going to be, one of the top cover linebackers in football? Not at all. And will he have the plays where he gets beat? Yeah, that's going to happen. But I think that he kind of improved by leaps and bounds by the end of the season. So, yes, I do think that they pair nicely together.
Well, number 2 on your list is number 2 corner, and we know that there's really not a great option, but you have 3, Maddox, McPherson, and Michael Jacquet. Doesn't excite many people, I would imagine, but who's the favorite for you there?
Yeah, I mean, what a horrendous combination there of players vying for that job. I mean, Avonte Maddox, I don't know that they go back to the well for another season, given he was just completely overmatched and teams were picking on him mercilessly, and he just couldn't stop it. He doesn't have the arm length. He doesn't have the size to compete and contend with some of the bigger-bodied receivers on the outside. Nor do I think it's a fair ask for Zach McPherson, the 4th-round pick, to add so much to his plate and put him under fire as a rookie. I think that a lot of times that can stunt a player's growth. You saw that with Rasul Douglas when he was thrown in there against the Lions on Thanksgiving when Calvin Johnson just had his way, and you sort of saw Rasul Douglas, it really affected him, his confidence. And I think with Zach McPherson, they need to sort of gradually bring him along because remember, playing cornerback, transitioning to playing professional cornerback is not the same as it is other positions. There's a steeper learning curve there. So I think that the Eagles need to sort of bring him along slowly, and I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's a good player, but I don't know that he'll be a viable option this summer to come away with that job. I mean, as tough as it is as tough as it was to write, I think it could ultimately be Michael Jacquet that comes out as the winner.
Yeah, that's a scary thought there, Andrew. All right, last one, of course, is one that they brought up themselves, the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's left tackle, Andre Dillard, Jordan Mailata. This one is for a starting job here. It's probably the biggest storyline of camp, and I think this one's pretty wide open because I feel like people just remember Dillard playing right tackle and just think he stinks based on that one night.
Yeah, I think it's certainly not fair to sort of write Andre Dillard off. He only has 16 games on his resume. Like, you're always as good as your last game, and his last game was abysmal. And granted, but I mean, he's saying all the right things. He seems to be a much more mature player. He's added some strength, which was a necessity because he did not have the requisite play strength to contend with some of the more elite pass rushers in football that he's going to have to sort of go up against each week if he wants to win that job. But I mean, he seems to have turned the corner from his first 2 seasons. Remember, last season was Rob. He had the biceps injury, so he didn't really have it. He was deprived of the sophomore season. So, I mean, we'll see what he's got because you can say everything you want in the press conferences and you can make it all sound good, but the battle's won on the field. So you're not going up against a slouch in Jordan Mailata. Jordan Mailata has come such a long way in such a short period of time. It's remarkable, really. I mean, in his 10 starts, he's proven that he can not only hold his own out there, but he has the potential to become one of the best left tackles in football, in my opinion. That athleticism and that size and the way that he moves is just, you don't find that. It's unparalleled, in my opinion. And I think he has a higher ceiling than Andre Dillard, and I ultimately think he's going to win that job. But it's not. It would be totally unfair to rule out Andre Dillard. I think that's going to be something that's going to kind of go all the way to the end of the summer, and one of the top battle to watch.
Really good stuff. Check out the full piece over at InsideTheBirds.com. He breaks down those 5 Birds summer battles. We are just a couple of weeks away. It's getting here pretty fast. July 27th is when that kicks off. And the Inside the Birds team will be all over Eagles training camp and all over Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. All right, Andrew, have a great weekend, man.
Yeah, man, you bet. You too.
Happy Hour Friday here on the Sports Bash. And, of course, it is brought to you today by our friends over at Matt Blatt Kia. Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. In this hour of the Sports Bash, it's being brought to you by Prop Swap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com. Download the Prop Swap app today. Well, this is a busy hour. We had football at 4. Do you remember? Bob Wankel's going to talk some Phillies as, you know, the Giants have a manager by the name of Gabe Kapler, and they are the best team in the National League. That's right. Remember that guy that everybody blamed? Remember how we like to blame the coach and the manager for everything? Well, Gabe Kapler is saying, maybe it wasn't my fault. Maybe the team you gave me in Philadelphia was just mediocre. Because the Phillies are 33-33, and they are facing Gabe Kapler's bunch, who are 19 games over 500, which is, oh, by the way, the best team in all of baseball is being managed by one guy that all you guys ran out of town. We'll talk about that with Bob Wankel at 4:40. Happy Hour Friday takes us to Do You Remember? It's the weekend edition, June 18, 1920. Here we go, a weekend edition of Do You Remember? My producer is Josh Henning, and that was PFL last night.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, it felt like every fight was just getting more and more intense. Basically, almost all the PFL playoffs are set now, so it was a wild night of fights.
I like the concept of that. What is the caliber of fighter? Like, how would you, are these guys who fought UFC or trying to get to UFC?
So you have
better than Bellator?
Oh, it's definitely better than Bellator.
I know you're biased against Bellator. Can I take your word on that?
I'm a little biased, only because I don't like the way the company is run. I think that
the fighter is better, though.
The PFL fights are better. Bellator MMA kind of works almost like the senior PGA Tour a little bit. It's a lot of guys who they probably should have retired, or maybe they don't want to retire yet, kind of thing.
Oscar De La Hoya?
I know he's coming back to fight. I saw that. I was like, what the heck?
He's fighting an MMA guy.
Yeah, I don't remember who he's fighting, but I was De La Hoya's fighting?
Viafort, isn't it? Victor.
Vitor Belfort?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Vitor might kill him.
Wow. That's your prediction.
Well, first of all, Vitor uses the PEDs, all right? Since he's no longer in the testing pool, and if you've seen any pictures of him lately, he's a little extra muscular, let's put it that way. And Vitor, before he took the PEDs, he had psycho knockout power, so Oscar better be careful.
All right, it's Father's Day weekend. Happy Father's Day to first my dad and all the dads out there. For Father's Day weekend, we know U.S. Open coincides with Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And on this day in 2000, Tiger Woods takes the 100th U.S. Open, winning by 15 strokes. It shatters the open margin of victory set by Willie Smith back in 1899. It's the largest margin in any major championship, surpassing the 13-stroke victory by old Tom Morris in the 1862 British. The only players other than Woods to win by 10 or more in a major before the turn of the century. Tiger Woods has done it twice. Now, I remember this one vividly because I was in college, 2000, that summer. And I just remember Tiger Woods running away with that thing. And it was good to hear Cam Rogers say earlier that he thinks Tiger will be back next year.
That 10-year run of Tiger Woods, was that the most dominant from an athlete you've ever seen?
Yeah, and I also think, forget the dominance, even if he wasn't as dominant, and he's the most recognizable sports figure next to Jordan, I guess.
I think so, at least.
I mean, everybody knows Tiger. He's the most synonymous athlete for anyone's sport, period.
Ever. I would say ever.
Period. Like, every person on the planet knows Tiger Woods a golfer.
Right. Everyone knows golf, Tiger Woods.
That's it.
That's it. That's all you need to know. It's incredible that it has that kind of impact.
2006, leading by 1 through 71, Phil Mickelson sees his bid for a third consecutive major and his elusive first U.S. Open, and he double bogeys the final hole at Winged Foot, and Jeff Ogilvy wins the tournament in stunning fashion. Now, I remember this one vividly as well, is because at that point in 06, it was Mickelson and Woods, and, he completely melts down here.
And that's when Mickelson was starting to get that label as, was he going to be the next Greg Norman? They finally won a few majors later on, but for a while there, Mickelson was starting to get that label as he was this generation's Norman.
Heat are facing elimination in 2013. Ray Allen shot forces overtime.
Yes.
Wild Game 6 against the Spurs. Miami goes on to win 103-100. Chris Bosh blocks, seals the win. The Heat win Game 7. LeBron gets his second ring. They go back-to-back. That 2013 series was one of the best NBA Finals I remember in a while. I mean, I was doing the show at that time with Todd, I think.
Todd.
Man, we were into that series big time.
That was also the series that Chris Bosh finally started getting some recognition as being part of that big three. Because for a while there, people acted like it was LeBron and D. Wade, and Bosh was just a non-factor at times. They didn't fully appreciate him. And finally, in that series, he started getting recognition.
It's a shame that he got sick.
Yeah.
He was a pretty, unbelievable talent. He would be pretty good in today's game, the 6'10 stretch.
If Chris Bosh played today, he's probably a top 10 player in the league right now.
Because he was 6'10 and could shoot.
And he could play defense. People forget how good of a rebounder and defender he was because he was so stinking long. He had that crazy wingspan.
2014, Clayton Kershaw, no-hitter, strikes out a career-high 15. He allows one base runner on a throwing error by shortstop Hanley Ramirez. Dodgers win 8-0. Kershaw, unfortunately, is not the same pitcher.
No, and also his career, I think, is going to be not painted very well 20 years from now because of the fact that his career has basically been this rocky situation of, has these great moments in the regular season, took him a while to win a World Series, and he's pitching in the same era as guys like Bumgarner and Scherzer.
This day, it's actually the 19th, Saturday. The Bulls select Michael Jordan with the number 3 overall pick behind Hakeem Olajuwon and Sam Bowie. 4 of the top 5 picks in the draft posted at least 100 career win shares. Otis Thorpe, John Stockton were in that draft as well, Charles Barkley. But on this day, Michael Jordan was the 3rd pick in the draft. Not number 1, number 3.
So is Joel Embiid, by the way. He's
That's
a
right.
pick, too.
Yankees manager Billy Martin pulls Reggie Jackson during the game against the Red Sox for not hustling on a Jim Rice pop-up double. Jackson entered the dugout. The two began yelling at each other. They almost come to blows. The fight became a national news story. It was the NBC Game of the Week. Billy Martin was the manager how many times? 9?
Oh, my goodness. Of the Yankees, I think he was the manager 4 times. Of the A's, I think he was the manager twice. And I think he managed like a 3rd team as well at some point.
In 85, the draft was held at the Felt Forum. The Knicks select Georgetown center Patrick Ewing with the 1st pick. Kind of controversial with the frozen envelope, that whole thing.
Yep.
It was the first year of the lottery. Golden State takes St. John's forward Chris Mullin. Utah gets Karl Malone at 13. The Pistons go with Joe Dumars at 18, 1985.
Those drafts in the 80s were just stacked.
Well, the centers back then, it seemed like they were just unbelievable. You had Olajuwon the one year, you had Ewing. That was back when the centers really dominated the NBA. All right, the 1943 NFL approved a merger between the Eagles and the Steelers, and they were called the Steagles.
Yeah.
They went 5-4-1 their lone season. The next year, the Eagles folded their own squad, and the Steelers merged with the Chicago Cardinals. The Steagles.
Yeah.
You have any memorabilia?
No.
1984, the Rockets select center Hakeem Olajuwon. Oh, that's the same as Jordan. Jordan, Olajuwon, and Barkley were all in that one. On this day, 1986, Len Bias dies of cardiac arrest caused by a cocaine overdose. Some people believe that he was going to be a Michael Jordan-esque player.
I know.
1986, 2nd pick to the Celtics.
And him passing away when he did totally derailed the Celtics franchise because their whole plan was to use a player like him to kind of extend their window. And without him, Bird, McHale, they all got old real quick.
2016, LeBron's triple-double against Golden State, 93-89, Game 7 of the NBA Finals. The Cavs come from 3-1 down to beat them, and then Durant joined them the next year.
And, of course, the block. The most famous block in NBA.
Oh, yeah.
LeBron pinned the ball to the glass on Iguodala.
On this day, the weekend edition, let's do just a couple more here. All right. Roberto Duran wins the welterweight title with a 15-round decision over Sugar Ray Leonard at the Stadium Olympia in Montreal. The loss was the first of Leonard's career, but of course he gets revenge 6 months later.
Yeah, and Duran claims that was the only fight against the Kings, the 4 Kings of that era, that he actually trained for properly. He says if you had trained for the other fights, he could have beaten those guys too.
Jordan scores 33. John Paxson's three-pointer with 3.9. The Bulls beat the Suns 99-98 at the American West Arena. They win the NBA Finals in 6 games. It's the first of the Bulls' 2 three-peats. 1993. Paxton, bang! That would have been the call from
Mike Breen.
Final one here.
Real quick, who would you rather have call an old game, Mike Breen or Kevin Harlan?
That's a tough one. I think Breen's probably better on basketball. than Harlan is. I like Harlan better on football. Although I like him on basketball too. I like him in college better.
Okay,
Better for the college game. Heat come down from 2 down to the Mavericks in the NBA Finals to win 4 straight. They beat the Mavs 95-92 in Game 6. During that 4-game run, Dwayne Wade, 39 points, 2006.
I say Dwayne Wade's underrated.
I agree. Very good. Big game player, too. He wouldn't shrink in the big
Clutch,
moments.
super clutch.
All right, coming up, Gabe Kapler was always the problem here, but now he's managing the best team in baseball. The Phillies are out there. It's on Peacock, by the way. Bob Wankel will talk about that with us next.
We're not going to trip the wires or anything, right? Okay.
All right, Happy Hour Friday edition. Here we go. Bob Wankel's here to talk a little Phils. They're on Peacock, which means no one will see the game this weekend, but they'll play the Giants, who are the best team in baseball. 44-25, 19 games over 500. They are managed by one Gabe Kapler, a lightning rod. Him and Ben Simmons could have a steel cage match at who was more polarizing, Bob. But is Gabe part of the reason why they're 44-25, or do they have some roster of World Series talent that we missed?
They actually don't have a lot of top-end talent. They're a very well-constructed team, though, that has a lot of roster flexibility. There's a lot of depth. And they just have a lot of good, solid pieces, and Gabe Kapler's done a really good job with getting the most out of them.
Say that again?
Gabe Kapler has done a really good job getting the most out of them. So, I mean,
did he not do that here? I mean, look, he had his problems here. There's no question he made some mistakes, but I used to say all the time, are they his mistakes, or are these the numbers telling him what to do, and they're telling him use the numbers?
I think there's two things in play with Gabe Kapler. One, like, Mike, go back to any job that you've ever had. You were probably better in year 3 and year 4 of it than you were in year 1 and 2 of it, right? Like, you just naturally get better at something the more experience that you have with it. And Gabe Kapler was a really young manager, a raw manager here that lacked experience, and that really showed, especially early on. So I think he's learned from some of his mistakes in Philadelphia. And, I think the other dynamic is that he just has a better roster right now where he is. And he managed a team here that was extremely flawed, and everyone wanted to point the finger at him because they didn't like him because he was weird and different and all those other things that we do in Philadelphia. And he was kind of scapegoated for a variety of issues that went well beyond the manager's scope.
There's no question about it. He was a guy that I think from day one was not really ever accepted, and then the team. But I used to say all the time, even though I don't know that he was doing a great job, I don't know how he was 500 with some of the teams that he had. And that, to me, was almost forgotten, was that the bullpens and some of the rosters that he had were not 500 teams, and he got them there, even though I thought he made a lot of mistakes along the way. So there has to be something to be said for that there was probably something in him that was, hey, I can be good at this if you just give me a shot. I feel like he's the Terry Francona maybe of, hey, maybe you were making mistakes. You had to go someplace else. I don't know that he would have been much better with 500 with this team or not. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's a guy that he did, like you said, he made his share of mistakes, and he made them early on, especially. You go back to his very first game with the Aaron Nola, situation, taking him out early while he was cruising. They go on to lose the game. The bullpen meltdowns where they didn't have guys ready. Some of the criticism was warranted, but I just think that he became this singular focus because it's easy to say it's the manager's fault. It's easy to target one person when you know that there are a variety of issues that ran far deeper than beyond Gabe Kapler. And as it turned out, those issues existed once they made the move to Joe Girardi, and they still exist as we're having this conversation right now.
Right. I feel like people thought if the manager was gone, that all of a sudden the Phillies' mediocrity was going to subside because they were going to have someone that was going to be pushing all the buttons. And I think we're finding out that maybe Gabe Kapler wasn't their biggest problem because their record is exactly 500. Because you give them a 500 roster, that's about what Gabe Kapler got out of this team. And he's been gone for a year and a half, and they haven't improved at all.
No, they really haven't. I mean, you remember, go back and think about some of the things that Gabe Kapler was blamed for. Scott Kingery's struggles were directly tied into Gabe Kapler and how the team was using him. And Gabe Kapler's been out of here now for 2 years, and Scott Kingery's even worse than he was when Gabe Kapler, had him. And so I just think that there's just deep-seated issues with this franchise, with this organization, where things currently exist. And the other thing you do have to keep in mind, I'm not saying that Gabe Kapler should be the Phillies manager right now. I'm not saying that he deserved to keep his job, but kind of like echoing what you just said, I think he was definitely unfairly blamed. And to the extent that he was blamed was kind of ridiculous in hindsight, especially.
We have a strange thing in this town that the first person we want to blame for all of the problems seems to be the manager. It's Gabe Kapler's fault. Well, the team's still 500, and apparently Gabe Kapler's teams can win if he's the manager. Then it was Brett Brown's fault. Well, it's funny. Now everybody's blaming Doc Rivers for the lack of talent or the lack of inner confidence that this roster has. we seem to always want to target the manager. It seems like they're all the laziest and easiest people to go after.
It's always the place to start, because the alternative is admitting that you have issues that go, issues that are so deep, so many, that you're never going to get to where you want to be. So you hope that it's the manager, you hope that it's the coach, and making a switch there is going to rectify all of those issues. Because if it turns out that's not what it is, and it doesn't make things better, the alternative is far worse, and it's far more serious, and it's far more difficult to fix. Listen, I know that you coach. I know that you have a little coaching background. I have a little coaching background. It's easy. And sometimes sometimes blame is warranted. Criticism's warranted. You've probably made decisions on a field that you regret. I've made decisions on a field that I regret. But at the end of the day, a coach, a manager might be able to press some buttons motivationally, tactically, might give you an advantage here and there, but it comes down to talent. And the Phillies, it's very clear, are just lacking that middle tier, bottom tier talent on the roster. They're top heavy. They have those first 4 or 5 guys are outstanding, but once you get through them, it's tough.
Yeah, I liken it to many of the people who are fans at one point probably felt that they were a better player and felt that it was the coach's fault that they weren't as good as they could have been or didn't play the position they wanted. So they blamed a coach in their life, and now that's what they're doing. It's like, the enabler. It's like everything in life. Why are you this? Well, my father did this to me. Why do you have abandonment issues? Well, my dad left me. Why are you blaming the coach? Well, a coach told me I wasn't good enough when I was in 8th grade. And I feel like that's why fans attack the coach. And I say, look, the coach has an impact. They have a role, but they don't lose the game every single night. Gabe Kapler didn't lose for the Phillies. Brett Brown didn't lose for the Sixers. Doc Rivers isn't losing for the Sixers now. They're simply not good enough. That's the problem. So that's interesting about this Giants thing, because quite frankly, I don't think that people said, well, this team's better than the Dodgers. And I'm not saying Gabe Kapler's the reason they're better than the Dodgers, but it also reflects back here is he's not the reason they were struggling either. The organization was just not very good.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants were supposed to be one of the worst teams in baseball last season, and that final weekend going into it, I know that they collapsed too like the Phillies did, but they were right there. They had a shot to crack that expanded postseason in 2020. And this year, they were supposed to be a middle of the pack, maybe even a lower half team in the National League. And right now you look up and you see the season that they're having. They've been awesome at home. They've been really good on the road. And they're just finding a variety of different ways to win. They've had a bunch of comeback wins. They've actually had some pretty spotty bullpen, performances, and they've been able to overcome them. They've been impressive, and they've played really hard, and they've found ways to win games in a variety of ways. And I think it's almost, you would really have to do some mental gymnastics to not give Gabe Kapler credit for what's going on out there right now.
I like that. Bob Wankel, Crossing Broad. Couple notes. Alec Boehm seems like, things are starting to turn around for him a little bit.
Yeah, this is like the ultimate glass half full, glass half empty situation. He's put together a nice little, I believe, 8-game hitting streak now. The average is well over 300 for the month of June, and you got to start somewhere considering how bad he was in April and May. But the other night, he basically broke up a streak of 80 at-bats in which he did not have an extra base hit. And so while you like the average and you see some improvement coming here, you got to hope that the power, or, at least some uptick in extra base hits is coming, because you just cannot have your corner infielder going basically a calendar month with 1 extra base hit. I mean, he has 1 double since May 19th, and that came the other night. And so they got to hope that that's coming soon.
Bryce Harper is obviously got the injury issues again, not on the IL. So what do we know about Bryce Harper?
Well, we know that he's had back issues. He had back issues a year ago. He had them in April. My guess is he's probably had them all season, but he's been able to manage it. The other night, it flared up in the middle of that swing. I guess that was Tuesday night in the 4th inning. He went on to strike out. Joe Girardi didn't like what he saw, and he pulled him. And it was a precautionary thing, and he's had 2 days off now. And the plan is for Bryce Harper to be in the lineup tonight. The lineup has not been officially released yet, so we don't know that. But the expectation is that he's going to play tonight, but you just don't know. You kind of have to hold your breath and just say, is he going to be effective if he's on the field? How hurt is he? Is it going to impact his performance? And can he stay on the field? And right now, I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
Bob, obviously Segura has been maybe one of the best hitters in baseball at this point. I mean, and they moved him to that number 2 hole. So they finally seem to find a guy there. And, of course, now he is hurt. And that puts a big hole there because he's one guy that's really been consistent for them.
Yeah, it's a killer injury in a lot of ways, right? Because if you think that the Phillies are going to contend in 2021, then Gene Segura is right in the mix and a big part of it. The Phillies kind of fall off the map here in the next 4 to 5 weeks, though, and they decide that they want to sell. Gene Segura is possibly one of the people that you could potentially trade. I mean, the guy's hitting over 330 right now. He's been a borderline all-star player, one of the most productive hitters in the National League, like you said. Well, if he's on the shelf for 3 to 4 weeks, that's going to diminish his trade value. So it's a really bad it's a bad situation, poor timing for both parties. They're going to try to make do. I would imagine you're going to see some Nick Maton, some Luke Williams playing second base as they try to kind of piece this thing together over the next few weeks. I don't think we'll see him probably maybe before the All-Star break, just before it, but maybe not until after it.
Well, we got Nola going to throw in the afternoon on Saturday. We'll see if he can follow up and give us 2 straight solid performances. Spencer Howard is the Sunday starter. Vince Velasquez, of course, on Friday night. That's your matchup with San Francisco. They have an off day Monday. Weird schedule. Off Monday, off Thursday. So you got a bunch of off days coming up. We'll see if the Phillies do something with the pitching staff there. You like the Reds? The red jerseys?
Yeah, it was like the gray. I don't need to like throw the gray in a dumpster, but I like the red. It's a different look. I think we need to mix it in a little bit. The gray is kind of getting stale for me.
I'm not a fan of the home white pinstripe. I just don't like pinstripes,
So you prefer the gray to the white, the red?
I like the gray better. It's odd though that Philadelphia is the one team that does not say Philadelphia on their roads.
Yeah. Do you want to mix in? Like, are you looking to mix in the powder blues on a more consistent basis, or are we good?
I'm good with what you give me there. I don't need the overkill of the nostalgia, but I do like the spring training reds. Yeah. I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, I'm down for mixing in that third jersey occasionally.
I'm surprised they haven't come up with a black one yet. Like every team has a black version.
Yeah, the Phillies are one of the more traditional teams when it comes to uniforms, and they don't like to vary them too often.
I like that though. Keep them traditional. I'm just, I like the red mixed in. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we're basically coming up.
I don't like the cream ones though.
Yeah, I don't love them either. I think we're actually coming up on 30 years next year of this uniform combo, the white red pinstripe. I think 91 was when they moved away from that maroon burgundy color. And I think 92 is the first year that they're in that current setup.
All right, Bob Wankel, Crossing Broad. All right, bud, have a great weekend.
Talk to you soon, Mike.
He is Bob Wankel from Crossing Broad. Happy Hour Friday. All right, Happy Hour Friday with the PT. It starts right now as we are really rolling along on a Friday. We got an hour left to play. Pete Thompson at the PT 973 is in the house as we get you ready for the Sixers game number 6. Will this be the final Sixers game of the season? Well, find out by listening tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. Pete Thompson, I would imagine that Wednesday night you were sickened by what you saw in that game from Philadelphia.
How could you not be, right? I mean, how could you not be when you're talking about a basketball team that now their identity has been blowing leads, 18 points and now 26 points, right? I mean, no lead is safe. No lead is enough. It doesn't matter. One team.
It's funny because I was asked that by on a radio show earlier this week. They said, is this their identity? And I said, during the Brett Brown era, they did this a lot. They would have big leads, they would lose, and people would blame Brett Brown all the time. It was his fault that they were blowing these leads, and we went through this for a while. But that didn't seem to happen this year. How many times did you hear this year, Pete? Well, they would have lost that game last year. They would have never won that game this year. And, of course, Doc Rivers was getting a lot of the credit for that, he was allowing them to finish these games out and that they were winning games that they had these big leads in. And here these last 2 nights, they haven't done it. And then we see this graphic that has been circulating around that Doc Rivers has 5 of the biggest leads blown in playoff history.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I saw that graphic come up not long after. It's funny how that works. Not long after the game ended the other night, that narrative came out of, listen, this is who Doc Rivers is. You get a 3-1 series lead, you blow that. You get a big lead in a game, and you blow that. And you're absolutely right in the fact that we hadn't had a lot of talk about a Sixers team during the regular season or even in the Wizards series, that this was a team that couldn't, close the deal. Well, they're clearly having trouble closing the deal right now. And it's crazy to think about this, but, you work in this business. I'm here setting up Billy Schweim and myself for some guests on Sunday, and I'm sending text messages to Keith Pompey that said, hey, we'd like to have you on either to talk about Game 7 or to talk about what went wrong. And you have to think about that other scenario of what went wrong.
Well, I've asked McGarry was on earlier and Paul Hudrick. I said on Monday when you guys are back on, are we going to be doing post-mortem or getting ready for the Eastern Conference Finals? And I mean, from what you've seen the last 2 nights, now McGarry's point is there's been however many 20 quarters in this series, and the Sixers have won, I think, 16 of them. So is that enough to make you feel that, hey, when push comes to shove, they have the best player in the series in Joel Embiid, although Trae Young is really,
pretty good
right there. Well, I try to tell Billy that, hey, it helps to actually watch the Hawks play one time.
Right. I mean, even with 80% of a shoulder, it's the Larry David answer. Pretty good.
Well, it's not just him either. And this is one of the things that I was explaining is their size. They shoot the ball really well. They're a tough matchup for the Sixers because of the length on the wings, and that they, Trae Young, he's not afraid to pass the ball. He's not a chucker. He's not a guy who just shoots to shoot. He averages 10 assists a game, and they're guys, because you have to double him, you give them open looks. They have good shooters on that teim, and that has been a little bit of an issue.
Right. Bogdanovich has killed the Sixers. Capella seems to be in the right place a lot of the time, I mean, that's the thing is you sit there and you go, well, listen, Danny Green's out. So this has been a different series because Danny Green isn't in there. Hello. DeAndre Hunter isn't as stiff. Cam Reddish doesn't suck. Brandon Goodwin isn't to hell with you, right? I mean, the Hawks have injuries too, and they don't seem to have a problem having the compete level to rally and having the will and the desire to, as you know, because you played sports, and I've talked about it most of my life. No, I played it back in the day. I mean, sometimes you're hungrier. The chaser is hungrier than the one being chased, right? And the Sixers have built these leads and built them up. And then it's the chasing team, the Hawks, that have been like, all right, let's get a stop. Let's do this. And then all of a sudden that momentum shifts and it's, oh my goodness. And not only is it, oh my goodness, but we haven't even touched on the fact that, this franchise player this one of two pieces that was supposed to lead the Sixers to the promised land, that guy's playing awful right now.
Well,
from the free throw line.
Yeah, he has lost complete confidence at the line, which has now trickled down to other areas of his game. We'll get to that in a second. But something that you said, here I'm joking with Schweim the other day because he's saying on Sunday during the locker room that the Sixers are better than them. They'll beat them in 5. This team's not that good. I said, well, Billy, you're saying this having not seen them play at all this year. Like, it would help to see them. Now, I get it. They were only on national television, I think it's 3 times in Trae Young's entire NBA career. So they're not easy to find on television. That being said, I think there's that part of them that say, no one sees us. They don't know about us. And they're talking about us as if they know us. And we're way better than you think after the 1 or 2 times you may have seen us play in 5 years.
Yeah, a little chip on your shoulder, sort of. I'm sorry, was there a football team in Philadelphia that rallied behind the underdog mentality and was pretty successful in a certain year that's not too far gone, right? The underdog masks and, all right, everybody doubts us, so we'll just go out and win the whole effing thing. That may be how the Hawks, and now they're home tonight. I mean, there's a very real possibility that by the time Billy and I get together to do our show on Sunday, there is no Sixers season to be talking about. You're just looking back at trying to piece together. It's like recreating, I saw a couple of guys this morning. First of all, first day with no school, so I had a delicious breakfast out. And secondly, I saw a couple of members of the law enforcement there. And one of the things I wanted to chat with them about was like, I saw a car accident the other day on the way to school. Is this a dangerous intersection? And I'm sitting there talking to them, but my mind drifted to the Sixers because it's almost like that's what we're already preparing ourselves to do. The accident reconstruction report of what went wrong with your basketball team that was the top seed in the East and supposed to breeze their way through to the finals, and now they can't get through the Hawks.
They can't get through the Hawks because this is a good Hawks team, and it's coupled with something that you said. Ben Simmons has completely lost confidence at the free throw line, and now that has trickled down to the rest of his game. And quite frankly, if that's going to be the case, Doc Rivers has his hands tied here because he's going to keep playing him. He has to keep playing him, but he can't win. That's the rub here. They can't win without Simmons, and they can't win with him playing in this fashion. So what do you do?
Yeah, and I mean, I love the fact that on social media it blows up. Everybody's like, well, get rid of him. Get rid of him for what? Like, what are you really going to get back when you're selling or trying to market a one-way guy? Ben, in this state, has exposed himself as someone that can get you a triple-double, that's not going to score a lot of points, but also is a liability in the last 2 minutes of the game. And how many NBA games come down to the last thing? It probably wouldn't bother so many people that much if he didn't have a $30.5 million price tag. It's not just Ben. I thought Marcus Hayes had a great piece about the fact that, Philadelphia basketball has always prided itself on being tough. And your toughness right now, the Sixers aren't tough. They're soft, you think about Julius Erving or Moses Malone or just tough guys that played the game hard. Does Tobias Harris intimidate anybody right now? And I never saw it coming. I honestly thought that the way that their rotations were, that the way the Sixers were constructed, that the season that Tobias Harris had, for example, was going to lead them to another step of that. I mean, my God, if you just sit and take a second, you've got 80 to maybe 60, like go in the reverse, 60 to 80% of Embiid every night. He's playing his ass off, and they still can't win at the end because they're soft. They're soft and they're scared. And who wants to be the guy? Who's going to be the guy to take the shot at the end? You can't have it always be Embiid.
No, you can't. It's because of the nature of the position he plays that you kind of get in that. And let me ask you, 2 years ago when Harris was here, I was not a Harris. I said, Harris stinks. He doesn't stink. He scored. He's just he's just an average NBA player.
Right.
But this year, he looked different. It wasn't, he's better. He looked different. He looked confident. He looked like a guy who was decisive. He looked like a guy who made the jump from a good NBA player to a very good NBA player. I am very disappointed in the Tobias Harris we've gotten because Ben Simmons, I can understand. He looks like the same player today that he was 4 years ago. That's disappointment. That's frustrating. Harris looked like a more confident player this year.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like, you didn't see that coming because Tobias Harris, here's a guy who also says, by the way, that, Kobe Bryant was his idol, right? Kobe was the guy. Well, where's your Mamba mentality, right? Where's your shutout mentality? Where's your we've got an edge, let's shut them down? I don't see any of that over those guys. And really, how many times have you and I gone back and thought about the fact that, you need a big three, right? In the NBA these days, you need a big three. Well, if you're in big three right now for the Sixers are Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Tobias Harris. That's your big three. Well, you're really not getting a lot of effort out of 2/3 of your big three, and that's what's costing you in this series.
Yep, and look, you need to certainly get more from Tobias Harris. He averages 21 points a game in the series. He had 4 last game. That's 17 off of his average. I get it. Curry picked up some of that slack, but in the big moments, you depend on Harris, not Curry. As bad as, and I'm not trying to say that he wasn't, as bad as Simmons was, he's only averaging, I think, 11 in the playoffs. He scored 8. So he wasn't that far off of what he's been giving you anyway. It's just very frustrating that what he's doing from the line is minimizing the impact he is having on this.
Epic. I mean, he's a point guard, right? Technically, that's the position that he's playing, even though he's 6'11". He's Ben Simmons' point guard. 5 times he shot the ball in the last 6 quarters. He's 5 for 19 from the free throw line. That's 26.3% in the last 2 epic collapses. I mean, each one worse than the last. And then both times when the game is on the line, your head coach has to bench your star player, Ben Simmons, because he's so offensively deficient. You just can't have him in there.
Very frustrating. And we'll see. I mean, all right, so you're getting ready to watch the game tonight. You're sitting down. Are you watching it with the feeling of they're going to lose this series or we can get it back to Philly? Because I'll say this, Pete, if they get it back to Philly, if they lose 3 times in the same series on their home court, something's got to change.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, maybe it's now that I'm 50, I've turned toward the Negadelphia. The minute they lost the other night, I'm like, there's no way they're winning the series. It's over. So now I sit here on a Friday night waiting for a 7:30 tip-off, and I think, well, if they get one, baby steps, you just start to crawl back. I mean, it's almost like a shell shock syndrome. Well, maybe, and then you get in there. Look, no matter what, I'll be watching, and then when I have to run an errand, I'm going to have it on 97.3 ESPN. So, I mean, I've got all the platforms covered. I'm ready to go, and hopefully the Sixers are too.
Do you think that they will get off the mat? Do you have vibes that they will get off the mat? Because it seems that
I have. You know what my vibes are? And thank you because I did dance around that. I have vibes of the fact that they will find a new and creative way to lose the game and piss me off.
Wow,
that's how I feel.
You are anticipating a loss tonight.
Yep, I sure am. So Billy and I are going to have to do our homework for Sunday to go down, break down game by game and find out why we're not talking about a Game 7.
If that's the case, what kind of changes do you want to see?
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to sell high, and when a guy's value is its highest. I think at that point you have to admit that Simmons is not your answer. And if the NBA is a team of monster deals and teams that have hiccups, including like the Boston deal that was made today, you got to find a way. And if Daryl Morey, if we know anything about him so far, it's that he'll find a willing partner somewhere, some way. He'll piece together. He's not going to sit on his hands. So if they get bounced out, for all the accoutrements that are supposed to be with this guy, Daryl Morey will whip up some souffle that makes it look like this is the tastiest dish to some team out there and get something else in. Because look, is there any part of you that thinks Joel Embiid hasn't given everything he has to this team and some? He cut out the Chick-fil-A. He got more disciplined. He potential MVP candidate, even though he didn't get the award. He did everything in his body, including getting injured and still giving his best. You got to give him something else. So to me, what do I want to see if they lose? I want to see him make some damn changes, some real changes.
Okay, real changes. You're stopping short of saying one real change. A big one is you want to see Ben Simmons gone.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was hinting at it. You were digging the breadcrumbs I was laying down. You knew where I was going. Get him, as Harry said, out of here.
You think that would actually happen, though?
Well, that's the hard part is, if you're an opposing team, you could find more than half the league or 70% of the league would gladly take Ben Simmons on their team and in their uniform. The problem is, are you going to be able to move him at a price that or get the package back that you want in return? And right now, Ben has exposed himself to be less than a $30.5 million a year player, less than a franchise piece of a 1-2-3 or a 1-2, and all those things are out there. So it's the reverse. You'd have the other teams out there going, hey, I think we can get one over on the Sixers here. That fan base is done on Simmons, and now even Daryl Morey is realizing that Simmons and Embiid can't work. I think we can get a real deal here. Let's see if we offer them this crap sandwich and they'll take it. Let's see if we offer them this, but we'll polish it up with this and they'll take it. It's a real dangerous. And so I say that I want him out of here, but I have to feel like, do I want him out of here? But do I want to get railroaded? No, I don't want my, what is he, president, GM, president of basketball operations, whatever Daryl Morey is. I don't want him doing that at the cost of just getting run over by some other team that goes, yeah, we know you don't want Simmons. We'll take him. We'll take him off your hands for this. No, I don't want to see that.
Pete Thompson, Happy Hour Friday. Let's transition to the Phils. Gabe Kapler is the manager of the best team in baseball. Many Phillies fans couldn't stand Gabe Kapler. They thought he was an idiot. Well, he's now proving the same Philly fans to not be very smart as normal.
I do have a friend of mine who's a Philly. He grew up in Philly. He actually grew up right down the street from where I live. And I texted him and said, what's going on out there? Give me the vibe, because he lives in San Francisco now. I said, give me the vibe of what Giants fans are thinking about Gabe Kapler. And they're like, they love the guy. They think he's the best. And I said, well, what are your thoughts? And he goes, he's the same moron he was in Philly. He's just got a couple different players and he's got some decent pitching and they're actually playing okay. He's like, and I said, yeah, he wasn't really well liked here. And I said, but the Phillies historically, Gil, as you know, don't have great success playing in San Francisco and at that ballpark. So with and I'm trying to remember what the rotation is. I think at the back end of it, Nola does go, right? But you're not necessarily sending out your aces, right? They had a couple injuries at the Dodgers, and I don't have a lot of confidence about the Phillies. I'm sorry. Vince Velasquez versus Johnny Cueto tonight. Am I not only staying up late? I mean, anything past 11 is a challenge for the PT. But am I
out there, PT?
Yeah, well, finding the game is going to be a challenge for Billy. But yeah, I mean, am I going to stay up late?
Are you going to find it?
Watch this thing. Sure, I got the Peacock app on the.
Oh,
well, I haven't. I got to load it on my phone, to be honest with you. I have it on the TV, no problem. That's fine.
And Dave Weinberg took that shot at you.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Dave's enjoying the retired life, so he misses the scrum, is what it is. He just wants to get in and throw a little mighty blow.
Well, I always say this. People thought, I used to say this when Kapler was here. I didn't think he did a great job. I also didn't blame him for the Phillies. I just said, the manager is what he is. They have an impact here or there, but not the people thought the Phillies were what they were because Gabe Kapler didn't do a good. No, the Phillies are mediocre. They're mediocre. I said Gabe Kapler should have been given a gold star for making this team mediocre with the bullpen that he had.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Right. And now you give it to Joe Girardi. Oh, you get a better manager in here. They're going to – no. The manager is not making the team that much better. So I'm not saying Kapler's the reason why the Giants are better, but I will say this. They were not picked to be the best team in baseball. They were road team.
This is stunning to everybody of what's going on. And that's probably the one benefit. You mentioned that it's all going to be on the Peacock Network. That'll probably be, to me, the one benefit is to hear Mike Krukow or to hear some of the Giants announcers and what their perspective is on why this team is so good. The Giants are 22-9 at home. You're supposed to feel good about the Phillies going in there, taking 2 out of 3 or maybe all 3 against a team that's 22-9 at home. Meanwhile, Philadelphia is 12-21 on the road. You're supposed to feel good about that. If the Phillies win even 1 game, I'm like, if they win 2 games, I'm pleasantly surprised. And if they won all 3, shocked.
Yeah. I mean, you got Nola pitching tomorrow, right? So you got to feel.
So that's the one you feel like you got a chance in, but that's the one, a chance.
All right. I know U.S. Open's a big one, Father's Day weekend. It's back to feeling some normal on Father's Day and all that good stuff. So, is Bland still at the top?
Yeah, Bland is not Bland. He's at the top, but there's a whole traffic jam behind him. Louis Oosthuizen's at 4 under. Russell Henry's at 4 under. Koepka's at 4 under. Bubba's at 3 under. And in the house, right? John Rahm is at 3 under and in the house already. Some of the late wave, everybody wants to know how Brooks Koepka's going to do because he teed off, I think it was 4:14 our time. Phil Mickelson, of course, who's the sentimental favorite, especially for me. I'd love to see Phil finally win a U.S. Open. He is just trying to make the cut and trying to be around for the weekend. In typical U.S. Open behavior, he's 3 under right now. In typical U.S. Open behavior and setup, they always want even par to be your score. So, I mean, the fact that you've got somebody 5 under for the tournament right now is probably a little unnerving to some of the USGA folks, but the cut is going to be like +4 is what they're thinking. Yes. +3, +4, somewhere in there.
That's where our guy Cam Rogers said about +4.
Yeah, that's about right. Good news. Hey, I got a hold of our guy, Gil Caps, and he is going to come on with us. He did send me a very nice text, Mike Gill, and I don't want to misquote Gil. You know me, I'm the king of misquoting, as you usually write back to me and say, did you read the text, PT? He is now, his title, because he's no longer like technically Golf Channel, right? So he wrote back to me and said, just a reminder, Pete, I'm no longer with Golf Channel. You can refer to me as an editorial advisor on NBC Sports golf broadcasts. This will be my 22nd U.S. Open sitting up in the main announcer's booth. Woo, that's a lot.
How about that?
Yeah. So, I mean,
he's going to be on Sunday?
He's going to be on Sunday with us. Yes. He's going to be on Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern time, 11 o'clock our time.
I like that. Gil's great.
Locker room. He's just awesome. He's just for 22 years, he sat there and he's listened to Johnny Miller and Dan Hicks, or now Dan Hicks and Paul Azinger on the broadcast. I think he's picked up a couple of things about the U.S. Open along the way. I'm looking forward to having him on.
I look forward to that. I do listen to you and Bill do make me laugh a lot on Sundays. I think it's a nice pairing.
I'm trying to learn. Listen, man, I have such great.
By the way, I saw a mutual friend. He's more. You knew him first from Omaha. He worked here for a little bit.
Oh yeah, I like that friend. Yeah, well, good.
I saw him today.
I thought he went into the witness protection program. He texted me and said, let's have a lunch. And then I texted him for like when the lunch was, and he had some ailment. And then I texted him again. And I thought he was just starting to like ghost me, like, to heck with you, PT. But no, I was going to say I have an unbelievable admiration for how you do what you do. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to peel the curtain back a little bit. You were just editing some sound while you were interviewing me, correct? Or were you scrubbing through some sound?
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I thought I heard some sound underneath while we were on together, and I thought, like, there's Gil multitasking again. You're listening to my answer.
I was doing something, but not audio sound editing.
Okay. Well, maybe that's just I had Tabby Thompson. I had too many windows open, and I was hearing my own stuff.
I'm typically multitasking. And the part about me multitasking as opposed to you, I could do something else and still pay attention to what you're saying.
That is correct. I know you can, which is quite a gift. I can't even pay attention to you when I'm staring at you right in the little square. The second thing is like when I'm still working on when we come back from break sometimes, and the spot will end, and I'll be like, why isn't there any return music? Oh, that's my job. Click. I'm working on that.
That's Sunday at 10 o'clock, the locker room with Billy Schwein, the PT. The Saturday version with Billy. Who's in with them this week?
Scott McKay. Yep, Scott McKay.
Okay.
Scooter and him. So, and they've got Beach Patrol Report and the usual stuff, the usual fun. Hey, I did notice that. I was staring hard at it because the logo is small. Now yours is a little ShopRite LPGA, and PT has on. Can you see mine?
U.S. Open.
Yeah, but which one?
Winged Foot.
That is correct. Last year's U.S. Open. I got a Torrey Pines hat somewhere. I'll put that on for Sunday.
All right. I do have a U.S. Open Marion shirt.
Yeah, I know you do because I was there with you too. I mean, that was a great time up there. We crossed paths in the media room where I remember how muddy it was. It was like Woodstock. Remember, like people were coming back with like their shoes were toast.
I was doing a show for a different radio station at the time, and it was inside the pro shop.
Oh, wow. So all that weather came on top of you? Like you could hear it on the broadcast?
No, it was just, we were in remember the pro shop, like it could have had its own zip code.
Oh, yeah. You'd never seen a pro shop at a major like that. Yeah.
It was unbelievable. It was huge. Yeah. But I was in line today at the deli, and someone stopped me for my shirt and said that they played in the Pro-Am, and they played with, man, who was the person that they played with? Like Betsy King or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
I told Betsy King once that my first set of golf clubs were Betsy King golf clubs, and I bought them at a yard sale in Massachusetts.
That accurate?
Yes, and it took all she had not to say, like, I think she was like, thanks for making me feel old. But I happened to watch a little LPGA before the U.S. Open came on, and Anna Nordquist was on there. Remember when we were in the group together for the media day, and she came by and picked up my clubs and was swinging them, and she's like, wow, these are old. And then she's kind of swinging them and getting used to the weight. And remember, she hit like 5 balls and not a single one of them was more than like 2 inches from the cup. Like she hit 1 in and like the other 4 were, that's the difference between a pro and us. And she's on an order.
When is the LPGA?
When is it? September. So it's, it's at the end. It's late, but hopefully this will be the last year and then they'll move back to their traditional dates. There was one year that the LPGA, in fact, because it's been coming up in my memories, that it was on Father's Day weekend, and they don't ever want that. The LPGA shouldn't have to compete against the men's U.S. Open. That's ridiculous. You don't ever want that date. Yeah. So late September, basically. Well, there you go, late September. So reserve that. I already have that Wednesday reserved for you and me for the Pro-Am. So hopefully,
good. I can't wait to get back there.
Still in good status. And I've reached out to our girl. Who was the girl that we played with? Yeah, Shasta.
How did you forget that name, dude?
Shasta Avery Hart. Yeah. Well, I was drawing a blank. I was just thinking tall
and awesome. So I know we're going a little long, but that's okay.
Sorry.
I'm enjoying the conversation. I don't get to talk to you very much.
I know.
Like real life stuff. So the other day, no, this is actually real life and my life, unfortunately, is on this show for 4 hours a day, right?
Right. So sometimes they intersect. Sometimes one is one and one is the other.
People will say something and you forget that they're actually listening. They're people that are listening to the show who enjoy it, that aren't there to troll and heckle, that they actually like the show. Right.
Okay.
You that sometimes. So, of course, that I have a lot of the beer picks, right? I throw out my IPA picks, right?
Right.
So when I went to Florida a while back, I found a beer down there that I really enjoyed. Okay. It was called Hazy Pup.
Oh, is this the one that you went down and found a case and a half because the listener told you where it was?
So one of the listeners said he sent a message and he was watching the show on video. A longtime listener, Jason Downing, I believe.
Oh, nice.
County. And he said, "What's one of your IPA picks?" So I gave it out. I said, if anybody can find Hazy Pup, or go into the liquor store and start to ask for it. Say, hey, can you guys get Hazy Pup? Well, sure enough, he found it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he sends me the picture of the Hazy Pup in the store, okay? So I'm like, oh, my God, he found it. That's the beer. So I had a doctor's appointment on Wednesday in the courthouse.
Oh, so you're already kind of going in that direction. I'm just going to keep on shuffling down to Wildwood Town and get myself some pup.
Right. I drove down there, right?
This is great.
Right? My man, Dr. Lewis,
who
was awesome. The whole allergy problem I had, he fixed it. He told me he was
nice.
My allergies, and I have no allergy problems again. So if you have allergy problems, he's a beast. He was unbelievable.
Excellent.
So I'm there at the doctor's appointment. I said, hey, do you know where Fred's Tavern is?
Fred's Tavern's where you found it?
Hold on. He says, because the guy told me it was in Avalon. So the doctor says, oh, that's in Stone Harbor. I said, oh, yeah, Fred's, because you and I went there after the Sixers Beach Bash.
That is correct.
Right. So I go and I drive into Sea Isle because I'm in Cape May Courthouse. I go right off. I go into Sea Isle now. Stone Harbor.
Yeah.
Fred's Tavern's right there. I get in my car. It's 10:30 in the morning, mind you. I go, woo, 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 and I'm looking around like, where's the... So the guy says, hey, can I help you? I said, oh, yeah, I'm looking for a Hazy Pup. Guy looks at me like I had 48 heads. He was
That's
like,
right.
what?
Right.
I was like, yeah, guy told me you have it here. Here's a picture. It's right here. So everyone's talking. He asked another guy. The guy's like, I never heard of it. So then the guy who orders their beer is like, what are you looking for? I said, oh, I'm looking for a hazy pup. This guy said he got it here. Fred's Tavern. He says, you mean Fred's Liquors? I was like, wait, what? He goes, yeah, there's a Fred's liquor store in Avalon. It's down there. I was like,
oh no. But I'm sure all the people at the tavern were happy to see you.
Yeah, sure. I drove to Fred's liquor store on 22nd Street, and sure enough, I walked in, and the mother load was there.
Good. Well, you finally got there. That's
I bought them out. I bought everything they had. The guy was like looking at me. It's like 11 o'clock in the morning by this time. I'm like, he's like,
give it all to me.
Right? He's like, you having a party? He goes, we just got this in. I go, yeah, I heard.
I know, right? I've been chasing down this nectar of the gods. Yes.
Yeah. Now all the food in my fridge is out because all the beer from this.
That's funny. Fred's. Yeah, just go to Fred's. So you have to be more specific. Fred's what?
Well, it's funny because it said. I saw Fred's and thought, I know where Fred's is in Stone Harbor.
Right.
Well,
and by the way, let's point out that Fred's Tavern does have packaged goods. So it's not
it had
like,
a great selection, by the way.
It's not like you were just at some restaurant that, whatever, right?
It had a great selection, by the way. I was impressed. Right. And I said, do you have this? But on the Golden Road website, which is who makes the beer, it said Fred's Avalon. But I never even thought twice about it. I just figured, Fred's Stone Harbor, Avalon, they probably got it wrong.
Well, no, they didn't.
You're looking for the hazy. Jay Downing, if you're looking for the hazy pup, I bought it all.
Yeah, there you go. Nice job. Well, you ought to buy him something back in return for steering you in the right direction.
All right, Peter.
All right, man. That was a true happy hour Friday. That was great.
You know what? I needed that.
Me too. I enjoyed it very much.
Interesting day today.
Go Sixers, I hope. My God.
Monday, postmortem or Eastern Conference Finals?
Hopefully ECF, but I'm saying postmortem. I think postmortem is going to be Sunday. Billy and I are going to warm up on the Uggs on Sunday, and then you're going to really attack it on Monday. That's how I feel. I do not have confidence.
All right, 7:30 tonight here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Pete.
See you, buddy.
That's Happy Hour Friday, and Pete Thompson, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk. Oops, excuse me. I messed that up. He didn't appear via the Boardwalk hotline. Happy Hour Friday. See, I messed up today. All right, what am I going to do next year? I'm kind of in a weird spot. Well, I got some notes on the game tonight and this series. That's on my list here. And I got the sound today. So I will try to fit them both in, even though I went a little long there. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. The free mobile app, and don't forget, you can watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. All right, Doc Rivers coached teams have lost 10 series in which they led the series at some point. That's already 2 more than any other coach in playoff history. But does that mean anything? These are the other coaches. George Karl, very good coach, I think, right? Pat Riley led the series at some point, lost that series 7 times. Pat Riley is widely regarded as one of the best coaches of all time. Also on that list is Greg Popovich, who also led a series and lost 7 times in the series. And the other one is Rick Carlisle, who also was ahead in the series 7 times and lost that series. Now, the Sixers have lost 6 straight road games when facing elimination, and 11 of their last 12 dating back to the 84-85 team. Their only win in that span was in Game 5 of the 2000 East semifinals. They won at Indiana, but the Pacers would eliminate the Sixers in Game 6. Now, Trae Young in this series, 29.4 points through the first 10 career playoff games. It's 5th in the last 40 seasons. He's having an unbelievable playoff, so obviously they need to figure out a way to slow him down. But what they really need to slow down is his ability to find the open guy. He is doing such a good job at controlling the pace and finding the open guy, and it is really killing the Sixers. He has absolutely been a backbreaker for this team with his ability to get in the lane, and he draws fouls. He does it so well. He also pulls up from deep, and people say, how do you fall for his pump fake? Somebody said to me. I said, well, if you didn't notice, he pulls up from half court. And he makes some of those shots. He almost feels more comfortable shooting further out than he does closer to the line. So if you're listening right now, 609-403-0973, I want you to text in and tell me, on Monday, will we be talking about the end of the Sixers season? Or will we be talking about the Eastern Conference Finals and getting ready for that? Send me a text. Either season over, because they might win tonight, and if they lose at home on Sunday night, Game 7, if they win tonight and lose that game at home, the roof will come off. They will pull the roof down on that building. If they lose for the 3rd time at home in the series, I mean, if you're going to lose this series, you might as well just lose it tonight. You better not come home and lose the 3rd time at home. This has been the best home team in basketball. I mean, look, even Brett Brown, who apparently couldn't coach a lick, was one of the best home teams in basketball. Heck, the Sixers stunk last year for the most part. They were as mediocre, not last year, the year before. Last year was a wonky, they played, it wasn't like they played how many games did they end up getting in last year? I can't remember. But last season, the Sixers had some wonky, they were like the best home team in basketball last year, right? But they were horrible on the road. Last season, let's see, the Sixers this year had 7 home losses. Last year they had 4. They were 31-4 last year at home. 31-4. With one of the most wonky rosters, period. The year before that, they were 31-10. You go back to the 2017-2018 season, they were 30-11. They have been consistently one of the best home teams going back to 2017-2018. To lose 2 times at home in this series is criminal. To get the number 1 seed and to lose twice in your home building, especially up by 26, is absolutely unacceptable. So if you win this game tonight and somehow figure out a way to lose in Game 7, oh man. So send me a text, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. On Monday, will we be celebrating about the team entering the Eastern Conference Finals, or will we be looking back at what was an epic failure in this series? Let me know. 403 0973. 609 403 0973. You know, yesterday we asked you a poll question at 973 ESPN, and I never actually got the results out to you guys. So let me check out what the results were. Here we go. After the epic meltdown on Wednesday night, who bothered you the most? It was Ben Simmons. 62% of you said Ben Simmons bothered you the most. Oddly, 20% of you went with Doc Rivers over Tobias Harris. I think Tobias Harris was the one who bothered me the most, only because, look, Simmons, I get, he's frustrating. There's some nights where he scores 8. There's some he scores 12. There's some that he scores 20. He scored 8. Harris doesn't score 4. And if he does, they ain't winning tonight. I got that news for you. Breaking news. If Harris scores 4, they ain't winning. But if Simmons scores 8, they can win that game. They need more from Harris tonight. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. We'll close up the show. Game 6 tonight in Atlanta. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. I can dig it, sucker. That was my Booker T. How was that?
That was not one of your better impressions.
I kind of like started it and then realized that I was doing Booker T, but wasn't doing the Booker T voice. Hate to say it, Mike, as much as a diehard fan I am, I think we're done. Blowing the last 2 games just completely tore the fans apart. Trade Simmons, Milton, and a draft pick for Lillard. No, they ain't doing that.
That's not even an acceptable trade for Portland.
Season over. Don't think they can rebound from that last loss. See a pattern here so far. Tonight is going to decide the series either way. If Atlanta loses tonight, they will have no confidence go back to Philly. Tonight will decide the series.
I can agree with that.
Well, if Atlanta wins, that decides the series. It's over. You're not going out on a limb there, dude.
No, the part they said that if Atlanta loses, that they lose confidence.
Man, I don't know. I like this Atlanta team. I like them coming into the series. I was bothered by this. I didn't like playing them. I would have much rather played the Knicks, to tell you that much. They stink.
Well, I'm still hanging on to my Sixers in 7 prediction, so I got that going for me.
Good for you.
For whatever that's worth.
What else we got? Dan from EHT, 100% Eastern Conference Finals talk on Monday. The Hawks have been putting the Sixers to sleep being so bad. Won't happen again, Mike Gill.
Sure.
I guess he's being positive. I don't know what the rest of that means. I don't know why, but I think Doc Rivers gives them a speech tonight that inspires them. I think they move on in the playoffs.
Some positive thinking right there.
Yeah, how about it? Some positive vibes, not some positive buys. All right, let's see what Paul Hudrick told us today. We asked him about Ben Simmons. Has he completely lost confidence in this one?
Well, listen, he did. When we talked to Ben Simmons, that was the most somber and most down I've ever heard him. In all the years I've covered him, I've never heard him kind of just sound so lost. So yeah, mentally, man, he's not in a good place. I mean, I think anyone would tell you that.
Dark spot, dark place on the dark web.
Listen, man, at some point, Ben has to make a decision for himself. There's nothing a doc can say, nothing that his mommy and daddy can tell him. There's nothing that his latest Instagram girlfriend can tell him. Ben Simmons has to wake up, look himself in the mirror, and make a decision tonight of who he wants to be.
I like what Larry Brown said to John Clark. Did you see that?
I remember you reading it off yesterday.
Yeah, he basically, and I get it. This is where I think people just think that this hasn't happened before, but if it hasn't, this is how you handle it. He says, you basically, as the coach, you basically go up to him and say, look, you can shoot. I'm letting you shoot. Do what you need to do. It's my ass if we lose, not yours. If I keep playing you, that's my fault. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can shoot. You're allowed to. I'm letting you shoot. I'm the coach, and I'm telling you it's okay.
I understand that, but I still believe that players play, coaches coach. And to me, players got to make a decision sometimes. We all go through points in our lives where something bad happens to us. We make a decision of what road we're going to go down. This is a decision with a fork in the road for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, you know what?
He needs to make a decision of who he wants to be.
You know what, though? Okay, for instance, I have a kid who's playing for my baseball team. He's about 6'2", left-handed, and he throws very hard.
Bless his heart.
But he doesn't have a lot of experience yet.
Okay.
And I feel like he's not 100% confident. And I said to him, you're the biggest dude out here. Every time you step on that rubber, you tell yourself, you look at that batter and you tell him, not verbally, but in your head, I'm the biggest dude out here and I'm better than you. That's the mindset you have to get, not before the game. Every pitch that you step up on that rubber, you look at the hitter and you tell that guy, I am bigger than you and I am better than you. And you are not getting a hit off me. And guess what? If he gets a hit, you step right back up on that rubber and tell the next guy, I am better than you. You can tell that to that guy until I'm blue in the face. He might not believe it. And that's the problem with Ben Simmons.
100%.
I don't doubt that Brett Brown told him, Ben, we need you. That Doc Rivers isn't giving him the same message. Ben, we need you.
Right.
And Larry Brown says, I would tell him, I trust your ass. If you miss free throws or you miss a shot, It's on my ass for playing you. So what do we have to lose? That's great. But if Ben Simmons doesn't act on it, the coach can only do so much.
100%.
That is what we'll see tonight. I think the Sixers will win tonight, and I think they will win on Sunday night, oddly enough.
I think they find hope in the darkness. I
I
think they come out of it.
I just refuse to think that Joel Embiid will lose this series. I think Joel Embiid, I've said it all year, he was the second in the MVP race. He probably should have been the MVP. I think he feels slighted. I know he's playing on one leg, but in the end, I think he's the difference. And I think on Monday, the post-mortem will be held off until after they play the Nets or the Bucks. By the way, Bucks or Nets, who you got?
I think the Nets close it out. They're at home. Bucks are bad on the road.
Yeah, that's a tough one. All right, game night's next.